Up in the spot, heads getting rocked. Lush in the building with my player partner Lock. Y'all know what it is, baby. It's good to see you, my guy.
Good to see you, man.
Recently got a chance to run into you at the Thop Fest, the Happiness of Pursuit Festival.
Very dope for hip hop, man.
It's there's not too many outlets
Yeah.
for indie hip hop. I mean, if there's any left, because obviously the goal for most up and coming artists is to get on like a Rolling Loud type thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is dope.
Yeah.
Rolling Loud's raw, but for the most part, it's like mosh pits to the sound of like rapper karaoke. People just like kind of lip syncing to their songs. It's like, it's a vibe. It's a cool energy. But as far as like the art of emceeing and rocking crowds and DJs like cutting up.
Yeah, it's a different world.
You don't really see it too much. So shouts to 60 East for
Yeah, man, he put that on, the Happiness of Pursuit Festival down here in SoCal was dope, man. And it was dope to connect with a lot of like yourself, man.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen you in how long?
I think it's like a dime at this point.
Yeah, at least.
More.
At least.
More.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, Locksmith, one of the most elite lyricists in the world at this point.
Man.
It's safe to say you are from Richmond, California, in the Bay Area.
Bay Area,
the city of pride and purpose.
Yeah.
A lot of people, people are familiar with Oakland.
A lot of people don't know that moniker.
The city of pride and purpose.
You know that, yeah.
You see the sign, and it's there's definitely a lot of pride and purpose. But when you go in there, it
ain't no joke. Yeah.
You got to be on your P's and Q's in Richmond.
Yeah, especially when I was growing up in the 80s, 90s.
Absolutely.
I mean, what's still, it still ain't no punk, but I feel like that was like the beginning of like the, because I'm not trying to get all deep on the historical tip, but a lot of
break
people,
it down.
Yeah, a lot of people from the 70s, like my mom came there. They came from California. A lot of black folks came from the Midwest or from the South.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a lot of transplants. Like my generation is probably like that first generation of being like, of those transplant people that migrated, like that first being born and raised, in Richmond.
For your first generation, Richmond.
Yeah, of my family. Because even my brothers and sisters who are older, they were all kind of like the early part of their childhood was from like Chicago, Michigan. A lot of my neighbors, I remember growing up in South Richmond, their families were from Louisiana. Matter of fact, like even North Richmond to this day, it's like you in the South.
They got that accent.
They got that accent.
North Richmond.
You would think you was in, they call it the NOIA, what they used to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Once you pass, what's a Rumorill over there?
Yeah, you go over them train tracks.
Yeah, it's almost like a cliche, like the other side of the tracks. But
literally
anywhere in the Richmond Flatlands, you got to be on your
you got to be
Q's,
on your P's
like
and Q's.
1000%. And but you have mixed nationality background, correct?
Yeah. Mom is African American, father is from Iran.
Okay, and they met in the Midwest.
No, they met here.
Okay.
They met in the Bay. They met in the Bay. Moved to Richmond before I was born. My pops raised my mother's other kids. At the time, they got married. He raised their kids, and then I came kind of later on. Yeah.
Is it safe to say? I mean, would you describe Richmond as like a blue collar town? Is that like a lot of?
Yeah. I mean, because people came here originally, they came to work at the ports.
Right.
So the city was just built around that, the refineries, the ports, all that kind of stuff was built because this, Richmond is right on the water, across the bridge. We call it the Richmond or the San Rafael Bridge.
Yep.
Take you across the San Rafael, Marin County.
And then you got the Carquinez Bridge.
Carquinez Bridge, take you to Vallejo. That connects like Hercules, Rodeo. You go to Vallejo. So all these cities around the Bay Area, it's all built around ports and shipping and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And growing up out there, I'm sure, because a lot of the people I know from the Rich, it's funny. I just had Kevin Allen, aka Irk the Jerk, and Monty Draper. And they was talking. I told them I was about to see you, and they were like, "Oh,
those are my brothers, man. Those are my brothers."
Yeah, and
Grand National,
I had Grand Nash on. Yeah. And we talked about the Rich quite a bit, and I was basically like saying to them that I know people from the Rich that lived straightforward lives and all that, but the majority of the people I know were into some type of activities.
Yeah, that's how it was.
Dope dealing, pimping, all these.
Yeah, that's what it was, man. Like, I was fortunate, man. I had my mom and dad. I had my older brother, older cousins. They kind of insulate and protect me from that. I was just hooping, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, and you could tell like
Yeah.
when you look at someone they be hooping, like you got that.
I was in hoop like from like 11 years old. It was just like basketball. So people knew me like, oh, that's Allie with the basketball. You know what I mean? So I was like always at the center. People that's familiar with South Richmond, like East Shore Park,
Right.
the center over there. Hooping at Harry L's, all these type of places.
Did you fuck with Crescent Park too? And
That's
shit?
where I was born.
Okay.
That's where I was raised in Crescent Park. So I lived in
Yeah.
In Crescent Park. So the
Very notorious section for those that don't know.
It was it wasn't. But my experience, it had its rough. But when you in it, that's the thing about like living in like the quote unquote hood, like that mentality. When you're growing up in it, that's all you knew. So that's all I knew. And for all the bad shit that was going on there was like this sense of community.
It's a village.
Yeah, it's a village, man. It's like when I grew up, like my next door neighbor, she was like my second mama. You know what I
Right.
mean? The lady next door, that was like another mom. Like everybody kind of looked after each other's kids. So it was like that village, but it was just something that happened around like the 80s, 90s. You know what I mean? Obviously with drugs.
I was gonna say it was crack probably a big
crack.
part of
I mean,
that.
I can remember being like 8 or 9 years old and seeing the first, D-boys.
Right.
You know what I mean? Pulling up, I shouted out my OG homie Mike Robinson. He pulled up in the Crescent on the little Honda Ninjas.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then you just like, what is that? And then you just realize, oh, that's what's going on. Then I remember one of my older, not older, but like a year or two older, first time I see somebody get arrested for, for slanging in the park, like all those kind of things. So that was like the beginning of like that. I feel like that era, in the 80s, and then
Right.
and then obviously in the 90s, it was popping. You know what I mean? People was really like moving, and you had a lot of people die, get locked up, and that was all. That was like the 80s, 90s in Richmond, man. It wasn't no joke.
Nah, absolutely. And something I always found interesting about you, and something that I really relate to you on now, and I feel like we're gonna wind up probably being a lot closer, even though we was always cool back in the day.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I was a loader. I would get really high. I had a strong drug addiction.
I heard those rumors back in the day.
allegedly. And you have you even ever smoked weed in your life?
I've never smoked weed. I've never
Wow.
had alcohol in my entire life.
You never had a sip of beer, like?
Okay. The one time when I was probably like, I want to say 8th grade, I think I sipped a wine cooler.
Okay.
Remember wine coolers?
The Boone's Farm and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think because I thought it was like a Snapple or something like that.
Oh, you accidentally sipped it.
I didn't know the difference. You know what I mean? I just knew it was like I just thought it was like grown people Snapple. I think I was
Okay.
like maybe 12 years old.
It for sure is grown people Snapple.
Yeah. But that was the only time I've that's the only time I've ever had alcohol.
Did you get faded? Did you feel the effects of it?
Oh no, I just took a sip. I didn't
Okay,
feel nothing
literally,
at all.
yeah.
I mean, at least I couldn't tell at that age. I mean, I had to be like 11 or 12 years old.
What was it? Because I know, the Bay Area, people really like to get high.
That's what we do.
It's a normalized part of the culture.
Yeah.
Smoking weed, drinking, doing way more than that, but
Yeah.
at the very least,
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, like so. What was it? Was it your parents? Like, was it a strict upbringing that kept you away from that?
My mother and father, they didn't do that. They didn't have alcohol or nothing in the house. They didn't smoke, so I never saw that. But obviously, growing up, I feel like I don't know now. I know people do shit a lot earlier now, but I want to say around 13 is around the time. When that's when fools start, like, that's when because growing up, none of the homies was doing that until you got to be about like 8th grade.
Yeah. For me, it was like 12,
Exactly, 12, 13, 14, somewhere around that time.
Right.
But like I said, I think basketball was the first thing, like, I just always wanted to be an athlete.
Okay.
So around 11, 12, that's when I was just like, oh, I'm going to be the next Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, that's all my concern was. It was just like, I want to be a hooper. I want to be a hooper. But then I would say definitely by the time I got to be about 15, that's when it was like heavy. It's like everybody's smoking. You know what I'm saying?
Did you feel the pressure or like curiosity?
Well, here's the next thing. So I think it was hoop. And then I started saying I'm Muslim.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was around the time I started studying, start reading, you know what I mean? My father is Muslim, but I would never practice really, nothing like that. You know what I mean? It wasn't never nothing I was like forced to do. But by the time I got about 15, that's when I started studying, kind of like learning about like that side of my heritage or whatever. And then I start consciously studying on my own, learned about Islam, and then I was like, okay, well, I don't do that anyway, you know?
Okay, that's real interesting. You know, to keep it a stack though, I know a lot of Muslims
for
that
sure.
still be getting loaded.
Look,
I ain't gonna say no names.
Yeah.
Like,
Now, everybody to each his own, man. I don't do nothing perfect either.
Yeah.
But for me, that was something that was easy to give up because I never did it anyway.
Okay.
So it was like, I ain't got to never start it, you know?
Yeah.
And then also, just to be completely fair, like, there are some schools of thought in Islam where weed is actually permissible.
Right.
Or it's not considered completely prohibited. It may be discouraged. So depending on who you talk to, different schools of thought, you know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah.
like, yo, so, you know, it's no judgment. I just never, it was something that people be like, yo, you know, you can smoke weed. I'm like, but to me, I'm just like, yo, I ain't never started it. I don't really want to do that shit. So, you know what I mean? It was never like it was never something I had to give up.
Okay. Yeah. Did you go to Kennedy or Richmond High?
El Cerrito High.
El Cerrito High. Okay,
Yeah.
I know.
El Cerrito, because I was on, you know, Crescent Park. That's that's right on that border right
Near
there.
Central Ave and all that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to mess with some young females that were El Cerrito High alum.
El Cerrito was dope because it was diverse.
Yeah, hell yeah,
You know
bruh.
what I'm saying? You had some hood fools. You had some. You have some white people from the hills and that Albany kind of area.
A lot of different races.
A lot of different Asian, Filipino, like everything.
A lot of Filipinos. Yeah, it got to the point where my group of homies, all from Oakland, I'm like the only one that's actually from LA. But I was like with them so much, people thought I was.
Oh, you originally from LA?
I'm born and raised in LA.
I didn't know that.
You see how it goes? Like,
but you was in Oakland so heavy.
Exactly. Like my whole squad are all East Oakland boys and shit.
Yeah.
So everybody just assumed that I was. Let a lot of people from the town tell it to this day. They're like, nah, he's not from, you know what I mean?
How many years did you live in Oakland?
I moved to Oakland in 2001 to like 2013, 14.
Okay,
and I had always been, we mobbed down to LA for events and shit.
Yeah, absolutely,
So I was always in the city still, but became, it was my formative years. I was 19 years old. It was like my whole 20s essentially was in the town.
Yeah.
So like becoming a real adult,
was in Oakland.
Just like Pac said, right?
Yeah.
He's not from Oakland, but he got his game from Oakland, and that was me. But we had been
MacArthur Boulevard.
I was right. I was on High Street in Mac.
Mm-hmm.
I was like literally right there in the East for a long ass time, and to the point where we were messing with so many El Cerrito girls that it became a rule. Like, no more El Cerrito bitches. Like, it's just like, it's too many of them.
I don't even think I ever messed with any chicks from El Cerrito. I mean, maybe one, but I was like, I feel like when I was in high school, we was always going to like San Leandro, you know what I mean? Messing with chicks like in San Leandro, Fremont, Union City, like, you know what I mean? Hop on that BART, go to Bayfair Mall, you know what I mean?
It's just anything exotic. You feel me?
Exactly.
Anything
That's something
like
different.
You run through all like the homegirls in a circle and shit, and like, and then it's like, it becomes incestuous at a certain point. You're like, I gotta veer off. Like, shit, I'll damn near go to San Jose. Like, you know how it be. But so at what point did you realize that you had this remarkable ability to be a lyricist?
Man, it's a funny thing. So in high school, I was not rapping at all.
Okay.
Joked around, played around. Obviously, everybody kind of played around rapping, but never ever considered. My sister was a rapper.
Really?
Yeah. So my older sister was a rapper in the Bay. Her name was MC Spice.
Why that sound?
Yeah, this is like 93.
Right.
90. So I remember as a kid going to her shows or she performed at like
Older sis,
yeah. She would perform at like events, like community events, with Black Alicious.
Right. Like
40.
La Peña and like
she was doing some big stuff, man. They actually one of the local news channels, Channel 4, Channel 5, they did like a whole thing about her. And she was a dope rapper, man. She was speaking on shit. She had like, it was that era. She had the dancers. I remember watching her rehearse. I remember her going to the studio, writing her raps at the house. And at this time I'm doing hoop. You know what I mean? I'm completely in the hoop junior high, but she's like, she's doing all this stuff. She travels to Europe.
Wow.
Does a little tour out there. She tried Eazy-E label Ruthless. They wanted to sign her.
Wow.
But she was more on kind of like some lyric, like a little bit more lyrical, kind of like Queen Latifah. Remember how Queen Latifah was?
Right.
Kind of like a West Coast version of like that You know what I mean?
And we had like in the Bay the Conscious Daughters and shit like that.
Excuse me. She went to high school with Conscious Daughters.
Okay, see, and that's why I feel like I heard that, because you know me, like I'm a super hip hop nerd, in particular for Bay Area artists. So
Yeah.
like, there's even the most obscure like people like
Yeah.
I'm low key up
Yeah.
on them.
So you probably know about
That's
yeah.
one.
So she
First
came
thing I
up-
thought was Conscious Daughters.
So she came up, even though she didn't do that same kind of rap, but she came up with like, you know, Pooh Man,
Right.
Chris Hicks,
Yep.
all them. You know what I mean? She's their demographic that time. But she
Fucking with Dank. fucking with
exactly
Dank.
dangerous
Yeah,
Dank.
yeah.
Like she was on all that kind of shit, but she was always she was a little bit more conscious. You know what I mean? A little bit more like that on that tip. And she got some offers, but then she eventually getting married, having kids, and kind of.
Right.
And then I want to say, when I started rapping around 2000 or 99 or something like that, I remember, I never forget it. It was probably the first time we recorded. So back at this time, I was with 3 homies. My homie Left,
Come on, Big Left.
and we had another homie, Hot Lips.
Okay. Pause, B. No offense if you watching
But
this
back
Hot
in the
Lips.
99, that was, you know what I mean?
That ain't it though.
That ain't it. But it was 3 of us. So they had a homie. They had a friend.
So you know Left since back in the.
Since before rap.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
we've been homies since 12 years old.
Okay.
You know, that's my best friend, that's my brother. So anyway, they actually were rapping first.
Okay.
I wouldn't call it like professionally rapping, but they was, you know, going to the homie's house recording.
Mm-hmm.
I think they went like maybe 2 times. It's like, yo, Lock, why don't you come over? You know, or I'm like, yo, what y'all doing over there? Oh, we just doing this rap. I'm like, well, what's that? Well, you don't want to, you know, you sure you want? I'm like, yeah, what's going on, man? I want to try to rap. So they took me to the homie Kamal house in San Francisco, right over there by Stonestown Mall.
Yep.
He had an apartment back there, and we used to record. He had literally, it was like, was it an 8? It was like one, you know, the little
4-track.
the little 4-track,
Yeah.
and you record directly into the tape. On
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Tascam Porter studio.
There you go. That's what it was.
Yep.
Tascam. So they was doing, so that was like some of the first raps. So I want to say I went there like 3 times. I was terrible. It was just terrible raps.
Yeah.
But I want to say it was probably kind of intricate. I had all these thoughts. I just didn't know how to put it to the beat or flow it.
Was it like about girls and shit like
no,
that?
it was like trying to
some
be like,
lyrical
because I
shit?
was heavily influenced. So
That's what I was gonna ask you. What was you on?
okay,
Like,
so my sister was more, the music that she listened to was more like Eazy-E, NWA. So I got that. My brother was more on like Big Daddy Kane, EPMD, all that type of shit.
Golden Era
Rakim.
lyrical
Yeah,
shit.
like the New York style stuff.
Right.
So I would say my influence was like that. But by the time I got to like in high school, college, I was more on like Nas, Wu-Tang.
Right.
That was
because
my,
we about the same age. I'm 40. I think you're right around my age.
So I was
Yeah.
like, yo, I want to rap like Nas, basically.
Yeah.
So my first raps was trying to just like be on some dope lyrical poetic shit.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know how to put it together. But after it, not very long, like after about a month, you could see like the you know what I mean? Because I had never heard myself. So when I heard, I was like, yo, why do they sound so much better than me?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because they were just like, they were a little bit just, you know, they had been doing it a little bit longer. I had
Right.
never tried it, but I caught up pretty fast, you know? And that's where I kind of like developed a style. That's also, a lot of people don't realize this, and I ain't saying this to brag, but that's also when I started learning how to write without writing lyrics down. Because at that point, they were all writing their lyrics down. And in my handwriting, it just, their shit just looked good. And they were quicker than me. So what happened was, like I said, he lived behind Stonestown. We would go to Stonestown, like we would take like a break, like the homie would make the beat, and we'd be like, okay, that's the beat we want. Then we would like go across the street, get some lunch or whatever, you know, holler at some girls,
Right.
walk around the mall. But I knew when we got back, it would be writing time. So I started writing the bars in my head.
Okay.
That's how I kind of started developing.
Awesome Jay-Z shit.
Exactly, but I didn't even realize it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I gotta get ahead. So if I could think of like 4 bars or 8 bars by the time we get back, I can be they think I'm as quick as them, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because they just writing shit. So that's how I kind of started. Then eventually I just stopped writing it down on paper. They was just like, I forgot my notebook. I was like, well, I got this shit all in my head anyway. So I played some of that first demos to my sister, and she was like, yo, this is pretty good. I was like, well, she was like, let me manage you. So my sister was like our first manager.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was 3 of us actually. Frontline was 3 members at the time.
Right. Hot Lips.
Locksmith, Left, and Hot Lips. Yeah.
And Locksmith and Hot Lips rhyme, actually.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there
You know,
go.
so it was you could always throw that in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's how Frontline started. I definitely want to.
It was 3 of us.
So when did you realize? And it's crazy because that right there is kind of the precursor, like learning how to rhyme in the way you did. Yeah. That's like the precursor to learning how to battle rap.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so
I didn't know that.
Right.
But exactly. Yeah.
When did that become a thing? Because obviously,
I love this story. So
bust it.
All right. So we're all rapping, right? All 3 of us. So in a matter, I want to say like 6 months, I'm just getting better. They like, yo, Lock, you know what I mean? When we would take our tapes, our demos, playing, the barbershop, and I started noticing people giving me a reaction, like, yo, who is this? You know what I mean? Like them bars, like, you know what I mean? Everybody would be like, ooh,
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, like I guess I'm getting pretty good at this
That
shit.
shit becomes addicting.
Yeah. You're like, yo, I like this, And then I'm starting to realize the type of shit that people react to. I didn't understand punchlines or nothing like that. I'm just rapping. I'm just rapping to sound dope. Because I like Nas, and Nas wasn't really a punchline guy. It was more like, technical lyricism and poetry.
But then he would have those, and people always remember, when I was 12, I went to hell for snuffing Jesus.
Exactly, like, what I'm saying? But it wasn't like, like battle rap punchlines.
Yeah.
But anyway, we recorded a demo. We wanted to submit it to Unsigned Hype. Remember the source, Unsigned Hype?
For those who don't know, that the source really was the hip hop Bible. There wasn't no jumper. There wasn't that was literally what determined.
It was before Double XL. It was before everything. It was the source.
I learned a lot. People that was how I learned the majority of like the early knowledge I had about hip hop. I would read about albums and look it up, and
I would read it front to back.
Yeah,
everything, and then I would also read who are the people, because they would have the people's information. Who's the editor? Who's the
right?
You know what I mean? Who's the submission for Unsigned Hype?
And Unsigned Hype, like so many people came from Unsigned Hype. DMX was Unsigned Hype.
Biggie,
Eminem, Mobb Deep. Like it goes.
So you said Eminem.
Yep.
So this is the thing. The first demo we recorded, we sent it in the Unsigned Hype. We like, yo, we gotta get this shit. We just confident thinking like we on some lyrical shit. They gonna fuck with us. We didn't hear nothing, right? So like I said, they had the number. We called there. And I remember I think his name was Boo or Gotti. Because I think those were the Unsigned Hype guys, Boo and Gotti.
Okay.
And I think I talked to one of them, and they were like, yo, you guys are cats from Cali, you know what I'm saying? We're like, yeah. He's like, yo, your shit is dope. He's like, but unfortunately, this month, it's this white kid, from Detroit. He's gonna win it. We're like, yo, white kid, who the fuck is that? Like, yeah, Dr. Dre is really fucking with it. We're like, yo, we didn't know who it was. Then literally that next week we hear the Wake Up Show.
Okay.
And this cat Eminem is on the Wake Up Show. And we're like, he's from Detroit. And I think they announced he signed to Dr. Dre or something like that. And we're like, yo, this cat, honestly, I had never heard anybody rap the way Eminem. There's been a few times in rap where I heard when people came, especially back then, because everything was it wasn't so many avenues and platforms. You remember, it was like, the Wake Up Show.
Right.
If you're in New York,
Stretching
Hot 97,
Bobbito.
Stretching Bobbito, the Source. That was, if something caught on, it was on that, and it was dope, it kind of changed hip hop.
Right.
And I remember him hearing Eminem as a rapper, at least from my perspective, I was like, what the fuck is this? I never heard anybody rhyme multiple syllable rhymes like that in that way. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Call the fire department. I hired an arson to set fire to your entire apartment. Like, it was like, who the fuck, like, who's rapping? Nobody in New York was rapping like that.
It was like taking the stuff that like Big L was doing.
Exactly.
And like expanding upon it.
It was taking like AZ, Big L, but doing it like in the way he was presenting it wasn't like smooth like how Big L, it was like kind of broken up.
Yeah, staccato.
Exactly. I was like, yo, what the fuck is, so obviously he wins Unsigned Hype.
Yeah.
But the dude at the source.
Which is kind of unfair because he was low-key signed already.
He was low-key signed.
Yeah, but.
That was the first industry, but Eminem earned his way.
Yeah.
And then we kind of like heard from other people, because obviously we're getting deeper. We're performing at the La Peñas. We're performing at the Ill, Prada, whatever it was called in San Francisco. We're starting to get into that scene and Mystic Journeyman.
Yeah.
All those. We're starting to kind of like.
Shouts to my boy Lucky.
So I want to say, I can't remember what happened first. Okay, no, I do remember. The first battle, so this is how it happened. We sent it to Unsigned Hype. Unsigned Hype said, hey, we're coming to the Bay Area. I said, oh, for real? He's like, yeah, we're having Unsigned Hype. It's gonna be at Southland Mall.
Okay.
In Hayward.
Okay.
We're like, okay. So we get our demo ready. We think we're gonna go there, play our demo. It's gonna be some kind of, sit down, play your shit. They judge it and decide if you win. So we get there, we wake up, it's like, you gotta be there at 10 o'clock in the morning. We get there early, and they're like, it was like, yeah, we're Frontline. He's like, y'all gotta all sign your name. It's like, what do you mean? He's like, nah, this is a battle. We're like, what? Honestly, I didn't even know what that was.
So you got like finessed into it damn near.
I didn't even know it was a battle, bro. Honestly, I mean, I knew on wax battles existed, but I didn't know about really like.
You had never seen it before.
I've been in ciphers. We passed the mic, we cipher, that type of thing, but I had never been in a battle.
Direct competition.
Never did that. And excuse me. So then they were like, nah, this is a battle. I was like, well, how does it work? You get 30 seconds. Everybody gets 30 seconds to rap. Matter of fact, even then, I don't think it set it in that it was a battle. It was like, nah, everybody got to go separate. We're like, okay. So basically, 100, like, however many people.
Hella people.
Hella people. Everybody from the fucking Bay who was a rapper was there. That I remember because it was everybody. Everybody signed up, and they was like, all right, go up there. You got 30 seconds. They pick the beat. You don't know what it is. You get up there and you rapping in front of a few hundred people inside the fucking mall. You know what I mean?
So it's not like against someone at that point.
No,
it's
just the audition.
Right.
What would get you into the battle round.
Right.
So I get up there and once again, I'm getting all the oohs and ahs. Mind you, I had never battled before. I didn't even know. I just knew I got to think of some shit that's going to get this crowd going. And I want to say right around that time is when I kind of got comfortable as just a rapper. I started to understand like bars and, all that kind of stuff. I started to kind of get a grasp of that, and it kind of happened. So I get up there, I spit the bars, and literally every 2 bars, everybody's like, oh. And they're like, yo. And at that point, I wasn't officially Locksmith.
Okay.
But I said it in a rap, and my homies, Left and Hot Lips, they were like, yo, that's a dope name. I was like, nah, that's a stupid name. I don't want that name. I was insecure about my rap name, but that's all I had.
What'd they call you before that?
Nothing.
Just your name.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, it kind of, because like, mind you, I had only been rapping for months at this point in time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like on the weekends, you just go to rap. So anyway, they was like, yo, what's your name? Locksmith. He's like, yo, that name is hot. And I was like, oh shit.
It is actually a dope name.
Yeah, I didn't know, and whoever, I forget who was the host. It was somebody reputable from New York.
Okay.
Because they were traveling.
Right.
They was taking this all throughout the country.
Right.
And it's like, yo, that name is hot. So I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna stick with this name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They co-signed it. So they was like, you moving on to the next round. Like what? Like, yeah, you're gonna battle somebody. And then so obviously I wasn't the first person. There was a couple people, and I was like, oh, these people are talking shit about one another. This is how you win.
Right.
So then I just, and at this point, it's all freestyle, obviously. There's no, because you don't know who you're battling. Pretty much everybody's just going off the top of the dome. So this is, the early years, and it's all on a beat. It's not a cappella. So they're just picking random beats, and I'm beating everybody. You know what I mean? I started developing a reputation in the Bay Area.
So you won that tournament?
No,
or?
I got down. It was down to the last, me and another person, and I lost.
Do you remember who it was?
I don't want to say his government because I know he's a homie.
Yeah.
I don't remember his rap name.
Okay.
But he ended up. So Balance, right? The homie Balance from Rasputin's.
I know Balance. Yeah.
So him and Balance used to be in a group together.
Okay.
So he actually won that thing, but everybody. I mean, no disrespect, but everybody's like, "Yo, Lock."
You
know what I'm saying?
won,
Like I built a reputation, which was dope. You know what I mean? And that was how I got into the first battle. And then I start understanding battle, and then I start kind of doing street battles and that type of stuff. Yeah.
And then there was the MTV battle. Is that what that culminated in essentially?
So this is over years. You know what I'm saying? This is like
because the MTV battle is like 03, I want to say, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 03. So up until that point, battling was never my main focus, but I knew I was good at it. I was always trying to make demos and trying to do all this kind of stuff with the group. I would do local battles, you know what I'm saying? People would have these local battles, different stuff. The Source battle came back again. At that time, it was huge. So that was at Bayfair Mall.
Yeah.
That shit was like Mr. Fab, I want to say the team.
I remember that.
Everybody was at that battle. It was in Bayfair Mall.
Clyde Carson, you, Fab.
Everybody was there. A lot of people, I can't remember. But everybody who was a rapper in the
Top
Bay,
Ramen was like from Frisco.
Top Ramen.
Yeah.
I used to battle. I mean, I don't think I battled Top Ramen, but we were in a lot of battles at UC
He's
Berkeley.
raw, my dog Topper.
Yeah. So everybody was at that thing. Know the Piper.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of people. So we were all just in basically kind of same thing happened. Everybody's like, oh, Locksmith, but I didn't win. But everybody was like, yo, this guy is dope. So I developed a reputation. And the KMEO Battles happened first. Remember
See, that's what I was thinking. That was you, Fab, Clyde Carson.
Yes. But I had already kind of knew those guys from the source shit.
Yeah, like Boss One, all them
Boss
dudes.
One, yeah. There was some battles I did with Boss One and his crew that weren't even just some heated, crazy battles.
Yeah.
You know, we paying your stripes.
Yeah.
Mike T.
I battled Mike T. I won $40 in a battle against Mike T. He was a beast, though.
Oh, no, I'm forgetting something crucial. The Wake Up Show.
So, okay, you went on the Wake Up Show.
Went on the Wake Up Show.
Okay.
So at this time, the Wake Up Show was going between the Bay and LA.
Yeah.
So once a month, Sway would come to the Bay and do the Wake Up Show. Left calls up, it's like, yo, we Frontline, we get in. So Sway's like, well, come on up here to the, you know what I mean? And that's when I had met Sway like in traffic back in the day, but this is my first time kind of like meeting him in a rap, you know what I mean, type of situation, and which was dope back then. So I'm gonna tell you, so many people was up at that Wake Up Show. I mean, Planet 8, this is when Planet 8, Cali Agents.
Yep, Roscoe and
huge.
Asia,
They had just signed that deal. So everybody was looking at them like, yo, these guys are doing it. And Sway was letting everybody come up and rap. You know, 8 bars, or if he was dope, he would let you go longer. I get up there once again, I'm up there and rapping. Everybody's like, oh shit, da-da-da-da. So then Sway says, yo, hold back, bring more. So then a battle starts between us and some other cats. I mean, not really like a battle, but like a bar, a little bar off, you know? And between Mike T and myself, shout out to Mike T, who's, you know what I mean, the homie, see him around at shows.
Good dude.
You know what I'm saying? So then Sway ends up putting that on his like Wake Up Show Best Of mixtape. Which was, you know, as an independent artist, you know, coming up. That's like huge, you know what I mean? In the early 2000s.
With fucking Eminem and all these.
Literally, I'm on there with Eminem and all these people. Yeah, so I was like, yo, this is huge. And then I battled Mike T out in front of Rasputin's. You know, Mike T was like the guy. Like, anybody, if you wanted to be a dope lyricist in the Bay, like in the underground scene, you had to go through Mike T.
And he's finna press you.
And he's finna press. Literally, look, I ain't gonna lie. We're doing a talent show at fucking Rasputin's, right? We just finished the talent show. Mac Mall's there. Fucking
Big bro.
Shout out to Mac Mall. Who else is there? A bunch of people like Bay Area. I think it was like maybe like Mike Denton Studio. You know, one of them. Some, you know, people that's known in the Bay Area. We just finished, you know, performing. You know, we got to wait to see who's gonna win. So we walk outside. All I hear is, where's Locksmith at? If you know Mike T's like, where's Locksmith? I'm looking for you. I'm like, who the fuck is this? And it's like, I'm Mike T. You know what I'm saying? I heard you been da-da-da-da.
He got his leather jacket on and all that.
I don't remember what he had on. But so at this point, I'm in the zone now. I'm like, you know what? I got something for you, Mike T. What's up? Let's go. And we went over there and right on the corner, bro. And, you know, it was no judges or nothing like that, but I earned my stripes. I did my thing. Everybody was like, yo, Locksmith, you know what I mean? So, you're earning your stripes. Fast forward maybe a year or two, the KMEO Battles. Sway comes back to the Bay. Mm-hmm. Remember? Mm-hmm. He's in New York at this point. Mm-hmm. He's coming back to the Bay. He's like, yo, we need the Bay Area's got, you know, we got talent out here. We need to showcase, you know what I mean? Because at that time, you know, it wasn't a lot of Bay Area unless it was like, you know, major stuff like at this time, 40.
Well, and like, you know, I was talking about this in another interview I did recently. A lot of people don't remember that the Bay Area was essentially blackballed from the industry.
Felt like that for sure.
For a long time. And, you know, obviously I feel like the Pac and Biggie conflict contributed that somewhat.
People in the Bay, I remember, people in the Bay was fucking upset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They took that Biggie, they took Pac's death
And even Pac getting like chipped at first when he got
Yeah.
shot. Like,
Yeah.
remember, like Spice One was just on here recently talking about how he wanted to go to New York, and he said it on the show, so I'm not putting him on blast. He said he wanted to go to New York and smoke everybody.
Yeah.
Like that's literally how he felt. And you know, there's a bunch of different artists that were, and I can't confirm this or not, but there's like a lot of folklore around. Because the Bay Area independent hustle game is so big.
Well, listen,
a lot of dudes like JT the bigger figure getting huge advances from labels and then running off and not.
I've been in meetings. Now this is, you know, fast forward, we can go back. But I, you know, later on in my career, when I started putting out music and stuff, I went into meetings, I want to say like mid 2000s, like, you know, 2007, 2008.
Right.
I've been in meetings where executives was like, yo, don't say you're from the Bay.
Yeah, they don't. But even, see, at that point, 2007, 8, that's a whole other stigma.
Yeah, that's a whole. That was the
hyphy
next
stigma.
Yeah, that was the next wave of blackball.
Which we could get. We're gonna touch on all that.
Yeah.
But literally, and shouts to, you know, JT the bigger figure is a huge influence on me.
Because
like,
that's, I was just about to say, because at that time, you got to think early 90s, mid 90s, JT, Too Short, for all them guys were getting major deals.
RBL.
Yeah, they was getting major deals.
Yeah,
They had
Richie Rich.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot, and then for whatever reason, the Bay was shut out the game, and it became really independent.
It was kind of a dark cloud.
It was, and that was, you know, even. I'm trying to do this chronologically because I know the new Bay thing popped up,
yeah.
but really, the next step after that KMEO battle, what transpired with that, and then how did that lead to the MTV situation?
Yeah, so the KMEO battle, obviously we wanted to get on the radio.
Yeah,
Try to get our song on the radio. You know what I'm saying? But this, you know, how do you do that? How do we get that popping?
are any of those songs anywhere? Can like the old Frontline?
Yeah, somebody probably got them.
But they're not like on the internet, like or.
They might be on YouTube somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, some of them for
Okay.
sure. But so we want to get on the radio. We don't know how to do it. KMEO Sway comes back. He makes an announcement because we looked at Sway because Sway, even though he had been so successful in New York on the radio, MTV, he was on MTV at this time. He's still hip hop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's
Yeah.
still like, you know, he's still like about lyrics. So, you know, and they're still doing the Wake Up Show, I want to say at that time. Yeah.
And yeah, definitely were, and he's from the town.
Yeah, he's from Oakland. So and you know, we don't have to go all into that, but I did the Wake Up Show a couple times. That had built my confidence, you know what I'm saying, down in LA. And so Sway comes back to the Bay and he's like, yo, so somehow they decide to have this battle on Big Von. Shout out to Big Von, that's the homie. And you know, that whole crew, they was like, yo, we're gonna do these battles on KMEL on Friday nights. We're gonna have unsigned people come up here. If you got bars, come up here, and they literally, you could be off the street. Well, I think you kind of had to know somebody to get, you know, to kind of like vouch for you to say like, let this guy in.
Right.
So everybody, I was kind of hesitant to do it, but so at that time, I want to say like Fab was up there, Mr. Fab was up there doing this thing. The team, you know, Clyde Carson, they was up there doing, and other cats was up there spitting bars. And my homies was like, yo, you got to go up there, Lock. You could go up there and kill that. I was like, nah, we focused. He's like, that's like, nah, man, you need to get up there.
Yeah.
So we hit up the homie Rob Reyes, who used to be, you know, M1 promo, who's now, you know, that's my
I
man
remember
John.
that, yeah.
You know, they're doing their thing. But at that point, Rob Reyes, Balance hit them up, was like, yo, let's get Lock up there. Rob knew, he's like, oh yeah, Lock can spit. Vouch for me, we went up there. Matter of fact, I want to say Black Swan was with us.
Okay.
Remember Black Swan?
Yeah, of course.
Hip hop, you know, I was like, because Black Swan was the homie. It's like, yo, Black Swan, come up with us up there to KMEL.
Right.
Just as the homie. And we had a few homies up there and went up there and they let us all spit. And it was like, yo, Lock, you got to be getting this battle. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be in the battle, not next week, but the week after. I end up battling. And once I got up there, I never lost. You know what I mean? I think I went up there like 4 days, 4 weeks in a row. I think the last battle that I had with A-Wolf at the time.
A-Wolf.
Remember A-Wolf?
The white
battle,
dude. Yeah,
battle
yeah,
rapper.
yeah. Shouts to A-Wolf.
It was called a tie. Or no, he got disqualified because you couldn't curse.
Yep. Wasn't FLO in some of them battles too?
Probably.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
remember
mean,
he was-
everybody was trying to get up there. I never battled FLO.
Yeah, yeah.
But so how the MTV happened, so then Sway comes back and says, look, we're doing this MTV battle. I was gonna go out there on my own. Like literally the homies from like the barbershop in the neighborhood, they saw that MTV was doing this battle. Oh no, they had 106 in Park. It's like, you need to go on 106 in Park, blah, 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 blah. We're gonna pay for you a plane ticket to go out there. But then MTV said that they were having a battle. They announced it. So we're gonna piece our money together just to get a flight to go to New York so I could enter into that battle. But then Sway came and was like, yo, I'm gonna have, so certain areas, I think it was LA, the Bay, and Philly had a thing where we're gonna have local tournaments, and whoever wins that local tournament gets an automatic
Bye to the
buy
finals.
to the battles, to like, however many 60 battles it was. So Sway ended up having it, and I thought they was gonna give it to me. I'm like, I already won all these battles. It's like, nah, you gotta do another battle.
The most legendary one from that run on KMEL that I remember was you and Fab.
Yeah, that was probably the most high, but that was my first battle of that battle. So my first battle, because Fab had beat everybody on air. So then I was next in line to be like, okay, try your shot. You know what I'm saying? And then I was able to, win that battle and then have to battle everybody else.
Okay, so then you wound up doing a local tournament to qualify for the MTV thing.
And everybody who was in the KMEO battle was in that battle too. That's probably the one FLO was in.
Yeah, I'm sure he was.
Because you got to think that's another 100 people that entered into that one. But I still, I didn't get no preferential treatment. I had to work my way through that battle again too.
But they was already, everyone was shook at you. They're like, or not necessarily.
Well, I mean,
shook.
not necessarily.
They
People was
knew,
coming from my head.
Yeah, they knew what it was. They knew that like
people was coming from my head.
Had some prepared Locksmith bars, like.
And mind you, so at that time, that was for me at least, that was the beginning of starting to have lines prepared.
I was gonna ask you about that because you always seemed. And there's nothing wrong with doing it. Like all's fair in love and war. It's a strategy. What's gonna win the battle? And like rebuttaling's never been like you do it occasionally. That's not what you really lean on. You really lean on being polished and just having hard hitting lines. So that's kind of been the
well, starting off, it was off the dome.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because but with those battles, I started noticing like, okay, people are, you could tell as a rappers, we could tell like what's memorized, what's not. And I'm just like, oh, they're memorizing bars. Okay, I got to get some bars memorized. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to be prepared, especially with those rounds. You're only rapping for 30 seconds or, you know what I mean? Or a minute or something. So you got to leave some space to rebuttal or do a little something or, kind of come up with stuff on the fly because that's going to hit. But you got to have these bars. You got to have just like, I always got 8 punchlines ready to go
on
for
top. Whoever.
I remember reading some article about cannabis or something like that. He would always have like punchlines and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I got to have some punchlines because for whoever, And even with that battle, when we battled Mr. Fab, him and Clyde Carson, shout out to both of them. I ain't gonna lie, like I love Fab, but Carson, I thought Carson was gonna win.
Yeah.
Because everybody was hyping, everybody was hyping up the team, you know what I mean? Not in a bad way, but they was dope. And they were, we did some shows with them and they was kind of gaining momentum and Clyde was spitting bars.
They're fire. I to this day, it's like baffles me why they didn't just become huge stars.
Clyde was smooth. He had bars. He was like, he had a little East Coast flavor to his bars. I was like, oh shit, okay, well.
Townish as fuck with East Coast like syllables. And
And Fab beat him. And I was like, oh shit, I gotta retrain my whole thought because I'm gonna be battling Fab and not.
Fab is a smart motherfucker, bro. Yeah.
And that's where, and that's when so Fab, so I was able to get those lines off. Like I said, you got to have your lines memorized at that time, or you got to start to have these punchlines formulating. You know what I mean? And when we went to the tournament battle, obviously, you don't know who you're gonna battle, so you got to go off the dome. You know what I'm saying? You got to be prepared to go off the dome. So you mix in some off the dome with some prepared punchlines, or you're coming up, you're like, okay, I'm about to battle against this guy. Let me get my bars ready.
Right.
All right. He said this, so I'm gonna be ready to say this. He might say this. So you start premeditating or anticipating what the next
short, fat, and bald.
Exactly. And I remember people saying some disrespectful shit. I always try to keep my bars more clever as opposed to like, your mama died. You know what I mean? I was just like, I'm not going into that kind of shit.
That's just weak, to be honest.
To me, I was just like, I'd rather be creative. But anyway, won that shit. And that's what got me to MTV.
So you go out to MTV, and during this time where it's not quote unquote cool on a national level to be beyond even just the Bay, being from California. They, you know what I mean? Like, it was kind of like there's the Dre wave and was kind of crashing at that point. No one was.
2003, yeah, that was right after the Chronic. That second Chronic.
Well, because the second, it's called Chronic 2001.
Came out in 99.
99.
Yeah.
And like that had already kind of
Yeah,
run
2003, this was Blueprint, Jay-Z.
That's what I'm
Black
saying.
Album,
Like it was
yeah.
all about New York shit at the
Yeah,
time.
absolutely.
Jay-Z, you know, Blueprint, Nas, Stillmatic, Jadakiss, Kiss the Game Goodbye. 50 Cent was larger than life. DMX was larger than life. Ja Rule was, you couldn't turn on the radio, you know, without hearing him. So it was very New York centric at that time.
Absolutely.
And people wasn't really trying to hear anybody from from Cali like that.
Yeah.
And especially the Bay. And you were unashamedly going out there and like you said it in a lot of your you know content. Yo, I'm repping the Bay Area, repping Richmond, and you were killing motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Killing motherfuckers.
That battle was so dope about that. That was not my first time in New York. It was probably my second time actually coming, but that was my first time kind of like in the scene. And, you know, being around that type of stuff and met a lot of people. But what's dope about that was like most people just remember that final day.
Yeah.
When it was like, you know, the final 8 or however many battles.
It was like it aired over.
It was multiple days. You know,
Yeah.
I had been there for like almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you were battling like, you know, because I want to say they narrowed it down to like 64 battlers or something like that. And then, you know, you would have like, I think it was like 3 days of battles or to get to that battle. But I just remember I was like, so what happened is it got canceled at first. I was on a plane to go do it, and they called me. It's like the battle's canceled.
What?
I was like, what? Because the battle was originally like in February, but it got canceled because I guess all the people, it was so many auditions that they stormed the Def Jam building. Like so many people were pushing in to get in, so they had to cancel. So MTV just like canceled the whole shit. It was like, all right, this is too crazy. We got to do this more organized. So then so I thought it was over. I was just like, all right, well, that battle's over.
You're literally on the plane type shit? Like,
I was literally about to go through security. It was like, are you in through security? I was like, it was like, don't go through. I was like, what? It's like, we've postponed the battle. I'm like, what? So my mom at the time was like, drove me to the airport. I was like, Mom, wait.
Yeah.
Let me get, so then they rescheduled. They hit me like a couple months later, like, we're bringing the battle back. I think it was like April or something like that. And we did the battle. They flew me out to do the battle, and we were doing it that whole week. And I remember everybody else was like, everybody was just, you could just imagine, it's 100 battlers. Like I said, they were doing auditions. I didn't have to audition. So everybody's just like ciphering, and everybody's just kind of like, for lack of better words, just like, it was exposing. It was exposing. I was like, I ain't saying shit. I'm going to fly under the radar till it's time to rap. Because I don't want people knowing I got bars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everybody else just like, yeah, son. Everybody's like, ooh. They're like kind of getting clout behind the stage. You know what I mean?
Which is like a risky decision at that moment. It's
Yeah.
like, do you want to get that momentum from being, you know...
Yo, that dude is... For me, I was like, nah, I know I got some shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You're not tripping.
I was like, I ain't saying shit. I'm going to fly under the radar until it's time to battle. And even my battles, like nobody was like really tripping until like the second or third day, you know, because like Just Blaze and all those guys were like judging. They were coming up to me. I never forget this. Just Blaze came up to me. He was like, yo, Lock, this is the first time I saw an iPod. Remember though? Remember iPod?
Of course.
He was like, yo, Lock, is this you right here? He was playing like some of my shit. I was like, yeah, well, how is that? You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, man, shit is dope. You know, so I started developing and then so as the battles went on, then I start developing. But at that time, we in the battle now. You can't, you know what I mean? You can't really, but I remember I purposely was like, nah, I ain't saying shit. Stay to myself because I want to get as far as I can. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And then you wind up going. So this is the second MTV battle, right?
No, this is the first.
This is the first one because this was
Recognized won the second one.
Yeah. So was Rec in this one?
No.
As well? Okay,
No,
Rec wasn't in this one, and then you wind up getting to the finals against Reignman, now known as RJ Payne.
Shout out to RJ Payne.
Another one of the dopest rap. It's so funny that it turned out to be the
But you know what? Look, no disrespect to nobody. I knew that day, I was like, he's the best. You know what I'm saying?
He's fire.
Out of everybody there, I was like, okay, he was the only person I thought. I was like, this dude is dope.
But it's crazy how far both of y'all have come because y'all barely even rap like you did back then.
Yeah.
And, you know, all these years later, literally, you know, damn near 20 years after the fact, 2 decades, y'all are both
Yeah.
lyrically in
And
the
we got
best
some
shape of
music
your
coming.
life.
Yeah.
Both you got shit together?
Yeah,
Or what?
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
wow.
Oh, yeah,
Oh wow. Well, shouts to Art. Man,
Yeah.
RJ, man, you need to quit playing and come pop up on the No Jumper platform with me, dog. We've been chopping it up. But you there's a lot of, so you did the battle, you know, a lot
Reignman
of
won. Shout out to Reignman.
Rain won,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of controversy.
Yeah, a
around
lot of
that.
people on the West Coast. I got back to bed.
We
Was
were-
like, yo, you won that. You
We
know?
were pissed, and I think people felt like, and you know, I'd have to watch it now because I have a much different way of
Yeah.
judging battles.
Yeah,
and, like,
absolutely. Yeah.
But at the time, I was all about direct material,
Yeah.
and I felt like at that moment, your material was
more
a
direct.
lot more direct. He was fire as fuck,
Yeah.
but he had that, you know, Philly style of
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
rapping really good, not really getting at the opponent
Yeah.
on a direct level. So we all felt, and maybe there was a little bit of bias
Yeah, yeah.
involved. Like
A little
you're,
bit, yeah, a
you're the
little bit.
local boy. We
Yeah.
pulling for you, and
Yeah.
that honestly, like I saw the it's funny because we were like moving around the same time. I'm in a lot of the same circles, battling the same people, but there's another dude named Locksmith, and like he was like the fake Locksmith, and I battled him back.
Oh, out in the South Bay somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
I addressed that in one of the KMEO Battles, I think.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I even have, and it was like a popping line at the time. I said like I battled this fool. And it's funny you said outside of Rasputin because I was a block away outside of Amoeba,
Wow.
Telegraph, and Haste.
Yeah.
And I had some shit. I was like, all you do is spit preconceived punchlines. Plus, you bit your name from Locksmith from Frontline. You feel me? Like, and like everyone was like, oh, because like it was a whole thing. But anyways, I say that to say I hadn't
crazy.
really become privy to you until the MTV shit. Like I maybe had heard like for sure heard your
Yeah,
name.
that definitely like jumped me. You know what I mean?
But it was also before the internet, so it's like if you're not there to witness it or you're not listening to the
Message
radio,
boards, yeah.
there's message
Message
boards
boards,
and
that
all
was
that.
it, yeah.
But if you're not listening at that moment,
Yeah.
you might miss
might
it, or
miss
you have to like
Yeah,
wait
you know,
for months.
YouTube,
for,
nobody's going on. There was no YouTube, right?
No,
Or nobody
we
was going on there.
We was literally going to websites with fucking like 14.4 megabyte modems downloading shit. Like
Rap Talk, BattleRap.net.
exactly. MCBattles.com.
MCBattles.com.
All that shit.
Yeah.
But after that MTV shit, we're like, yo, this dude's fire.
Bro,
And
I came home, I was a celebrity.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, damn, girls was coming up to me, and you know what I mean? I'm getting recognized. I'm like, damn, like I had no idea. You know what I mean? And that MTV battle helped our career because now KMEL starts playing us on the radio a little bit, you know, stuff that me and Lef are doing. At that point, me and Lef is just us two.
Right.
And by the way, Lef is with me in New York the whole time. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? We're like, we're going around New York, you know what I mean, trying to network, meet with people at the, during the time of the battle. Yeah.
Left is raw, one of the illest flows. Like
Yeah,
he got
yeah.
that real consistent
Yeah,
flow.
yeah,
I
for sure.
fuck
And he
with
was
Left.
producing the beats at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one of the most legendary producers in the Bay Area, EA Ski.
Yes, sir.
So did he become privy to you because of the?
Yeah, so I want to say I met Ski before that through Balance.
Okay.
Because Balance was working with EA Ski. Shout out to EA Ski, man. So Balance was working with EA Ski. He did some recorded on some of his tracks. And anybody who knows, one of the best, producers
Yeah.
to ever walk this earth.
Yeah, literally. People, if you look at EA Ski's production credits, it's
So
insane.
he did some stuff with Balance. EA Ski had came back to the Bay, was independent, putting out stuff on the radio, and everything was slapping.
yeah.
So, and we had kind of developed just a little bit of a friendship, just through Balance. And then me and Lef had, I was like, yo, we need to get a beat from him.
Who coincidentally has also never smoked weed or drank in his entire
And
life.
that's one of the things that we kind of bonded on. So I hit up EA Ski.
And I could not relate to y'all. I was like, man, they're dope, but my mind was so warped I couldn't even I was like, I love their music and shit, but it's just something. They don't smoke weed. They're not cool. What the fuck?
That's a real thing. You deal with that in the industry. But
now I'm a guy, the square is Delaware.
Yeah. But yeah, so we connect with Ski, and initially it was just like, yo, I want to get a beat. We love to get a production. Like, what do we need to do? What will it cost? I think we met over in Oakland by the lake somewhere. We had like a little meeting. He was like, look, this is how much it's going to cost. We was like, all right, cool, let's do it. And he gave us our first beat.
Was that What Is It?
It was What Is It? That was the first beat.
The first beat that y'all ever got from Ski becomes your first radio hit.
So he gives us the beat. We record it at the Grill.
Yep.
Emeryville. We sent
By
it to
53rd and
we
Pablo.
sent it to EA Ski. It was a little different. The beat was, I want to say, no, it might have been exactly the same. But we sent him we didn't know if he was going to like it. And we sent it to him. He was like, yo, this shit is hot. Come to my studio. We're going to re-record it. So we re-recorded it. We hadn't even heard the hook at this time, and Ski was going to put a verse on it. You know what I mean? So he was just like.
Wait, so you didn't have the hook. You just had the verses on it.
We had our verses on it.
Yeah.
Me and Left's verse. Ski took it into Ski and CMT. CMT is recording us.
Right.
Ski goes in there like, I'm gonna do the chorus, and he's doing the chorus. What is it?
I always thought that was your voice.
Nah, that's Ski doing it.
Okay. I know the lower one is whatever you want it to be. Yeah.
What
yeah.
is? Nah, that's Ski doing it. You know what I mean? Ski's doing all the ad libs. He was the one that kind of. I mean, we were doing ad libs, but he really kind of showed us the emphasis, like, blow. You know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So he kind of. And I remember they made me re-record my verse like a bunch of times. You know what I mean? Like, you got to emphasize this word. I'm like, but, you know what I mean? But, I'm like, I can't do it too many times.
Right.
He's like, all right, that's the right one. So I remember re-recording it, really perfectionist. And he went and did the chorus and put his verse on it. And then he was like, yo, let's do something different. I was like, what you want to do? He's like, I want to produce more for y'all. I want to really kind of help y'all mix some of y'all tracks, So we kind of went into a partnership with him and, CMT and, you know what I mean? And then we put the song on the radio.
But what's funny about that song, it's really interesting. And this is like, that song to be a radio song, it sounds like what was popping on the radio at the time.
Yeah.
Especially in the Bay.
Yeah.
But you're basically like dissing MTV essentially.
I'm telling you. When I put out that song, when we played that song, I think it shout out to homie Rick Lee. I want to say Rick Lee was the first person to play it on
Dragon,
air.
come on.
Maybe My Emotion.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Sana G, all that.
Yeah, they would play it. And
My Emotion.
Yeah. Shout out My Emotion. But it was like it was kind of battle. It was a battle rap
That's what
song.
I'm saying. But it sounded like a club banger.
Yeah.
It sounds like a club banger.
It had those elements of like, you know what I mean?
But you're like talking about essentially your experience.
And Ski, he didn't say what to rap about. He was just like, hey, here's a beat, Because at that point, we were just buying a beat from Ski.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he didn't have a vet, at least I didn't know at that time. It wasn't like, yo, I want to work with you. I was like, yo, we want to get a beat from you. You know what I'm saying?
And I'm sure it wasn't cheap either. You probably...
No. I mean, I don't know what the amount, but we had to be like, yo, let's put our money up together.
Yeah, it was for sure 4 digits at least. Yeah.
I know, it was some money. So we did the song. We gets played. I remember... Not the radio DJs, but I remember other people kind of in the industry was like, that song will never go anywhere.
Right.
It's too battle. You got to make some.
You wouldn't think.
You got to make some radio type of stuff. Like,
and even Left's verse, I mean, he's not talking about the battle rap shit, but he's still like.
He's talking shit.
Yeah, I'm a quarterback like Rich
I say, I ain't a pussy, man. I don't sweat vaginal fluid. How the fuck you say that?
I don't sweat vaginal fluid.
Yeah, like, come on, dude. Who the fuck? I don't even know why I even... I was still in battle mode. I'm fresh off the fucking MTV thing. And it just catches on. Like, it started off in the clubs first.
Yeah.
That shit was playing. Because I remember different DJs was calling us or calling Ski like, yo, bro... People were sending us voice recordings or some kind of or they would call and leave voicemails and you would hear people singing along to the song in the club.
You couldn't avoid that record in the Bay. It was a hit record.
But it was a slow,
right?
It was a slow grind. Like that record came out in 2003. It didn't really hit the radio
04,
till like 04.
Yeah.
That's when it was just like, you can't escape this shit.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. And around that time, there's this whole movement, the New Bay, they were calling it, and that's like Balance, y'all, and Fab, I feel like were like the four.
So, yeah, we used to throw shows. I want to say it might have been around, it was in 2003. We was throwing these little shows at Blake's in Berkeley.
Berkeley.
Yeah, throwing them shows. And we had been doing it before, but I remember as at one point, I want to say it was right after the MTV battle, because we getting some, we getting some hype now. You know what I'm saying? We everybody knows about, Locksmith, Frontline. We starting to get. So I remember we put it on a show. It was me, it was, us, Frontline, Balance, Mr. Fab, and the team.
Yep.
Jay Dandridge, I think. I don't know if you remember Jay Dandridge.
Yeah.
From North Oakland,
Right.
Berkeley. Jay Dandridge.
He fucked with Fab, I remember.
He fucked with Fab, yeah.
Was it so?
I threw a show and we all performed together.
Was the team already on the radio, like with "It's Getting Hot in Here" and all that, or was that
This is
before
pre
that?
They had other songs on the. We all had little songs on the radio.
Yeah.
But nothing that was like popping. This is before it started.
Because I felt like that was hyphy movement for them.
Let me tell you. This is the first time I heard the word hyphy.
Yeah.
We doing a show, right? Mind you, Blake's is hella small, right?
Yeah. But it's popping.
We sold the motherfucker out. The line was down the street. We couldn't this was our show. We put it on. People are trying to get in there. It's no windows. That motherfucker's just like sweating, right? JT comes through. JT, the bigger figure, comes through, perform. Ski and them come through, perform. It was like, we felt like, we part of the Bay Area now. Like,
Right.
we got these legends coming through, showing us love. I want to say E40's record release party was the same night, because I feel like we left from there and went to 40's release party at Sweet Jimmy's.
Okay. Man,
Which
they
is
don't
now
know
the new
about-
parish.
And Sweet Jimmy's back then,
Yeah.
that was
this real OG bass shit right here.
but that was a dangerous place to go. That
Yeah.
place was getting shot up every other week.
But listen, speaking of danger, so I want to say we performing. So, it's our show. So obviously we're going to end the night off. You know what I'm saying? So Fab and them had performed, and we all kind of performing together. Oh, and we had a song, maybe I think it was called New Bay, that Ski produced.
Yeah.
Me, Balance, the team, Fab, Essential, Ski's doing the hook. So I think maybe was going to perform that song or something. I could be wrong. But anyway, it's dudes. While I'm performing on the side, they just doing too much. I'm like, yo, Fab, because I know they from Oakland. I'm like, Fab, what's up with your people? He's like, man, they just hyphy.
Yeah.
That was the first time I heard hyphy.
Yeah.
But at that point, hyphy just meant like you being like
Turned up.
way too turned up,
Yeah.
like in a destructive way.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I'm like, try to calm these niggas down. Like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? So, so that was the first time I heard the word hyphy. So this is like, 2003. I don't know. We did so many shows. I think it was that show. It might have been
So
2002.
this is after the
I think it's after the MTV Battle.
thing, and
Yeah.
while you're functioning with Ski, and What Is It is creeping up the radio, and like
It might have been right before What Is It?
Okay.
It might have been, or maybe right. It ain't really on the radio, but it's out.
it's crazy. Sweet Jimmy, I've been in Sweet Jimmy's when it got shot the fuck up, bro. That place,
Bro,
shit.
you had to go at that point in time in 2003. If you was a Bay Area rapper, you wasn't validated. You had to go through Sweet Jimmy.
Period.
Shout out to Sweets, man.
Yeah.
Like, because everybody, and let me just say this, like, this is just being completely real. We coming up at that time, but I tell this to people all the time, the history, when you talking about the Bay Area, because everybody obviously knows Short, everybody knows 40. Keak da Sneak, I've never seen a movement, a real street movement like Keak da Sneak at that time.
Facts.
Keak da Sneak was the Bay Area.
That's especially in the town, like the East Bay.
But the East Bay was
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like everything kind of trickled off of that. Like,
Right.
the Oakland was like the hub of hyphy.
Or like
Everything.
Frisco's like its
Well,
own
Frisco
world,
was,
though, and shit.
obviously
like,
San Quinn, like
yeah.
I love Frisco.
Mess, San
Mac
Quinn.
Dre,
Yeah.
I got Mac Dre stories too, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But I just remember, because we coming up at the same time, I'm seeing it with my eyes, how the whole Bay Area, because, at that time, I want to say, I think Keak was living in Sac.
Yeah.
So, local radio wasn't really supporting him until he came with that T-shirt,
Yeah,
blue jeans and
the
Nikes,
Nikes.
produced by Rock, Rick Rock. But I just saw his, like, bro, you couldn't even purchase nowhere. You couldn't even purchase a Keak da Sneak CD. They were sold out.
Literally, Sneakercidal, all that.
Bro,
like,
all of them.
high tech.
They was
pimping.
gone, bro.
You know what's crazy? Like, I was just talking to Plex, my homeboy Plex,
Yeah,
about
yeah.
this the other day.
That's the homie
Everybody,
used to used to host the battles,
That's my
right?
brother right there,
Yeah.
Delmont crew. Everybody that I came across in the town was trying to rap like 3 times crazy.
Bro.
Everyone was trying to rap like Keak.
You know what?
Everybody.
Shout out to 3 Times Crazy, man. Because those was one of the times, like I said, I was more on East Coast shit. But when we heard 3 Times Crazy, I was like, I felt like they was just dope all around.
They're
Like
dope.
it was like town shit, but like a lot of people didn't understand, but Keak was on some spitting shit. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
he
saying?
was.
Bart, B.A.
BA was crazy, and Adrian Man
was like
yeah.
had some depth.
Yeah.
Keak had the style. Bart was just kind of lyrical. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I was like, we kind of like Frontline. We kind of was like, their songs is getting played. Like that's something that we could kind of be dope like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And because when you're in the Bay and you realize it's like you kind of lose sight of the fact that it's this little insular bubble because it seems like there's so much opportunity within it that it's like if you find out what moves that crowd and you're gonna rock with it.
So not to say anything, maybe even to a detriment. So around that time, we're on the radio, we getting played, on KMEO 94.9, the local radio stations.
Yeah.
We getting played like 40, 50 times a week.
Yeah.
That was my beginning of my music career.
Yeah.
So we're doing all these shows. We getting paid. We getting broke off every weekend. Thursday through Sunday, we getting broke off thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
To do a show. I didn't understand touring. I didn't understand none of that. All I know is like, this is what you do.
And were those records moving outside of the Bay at all? Like
A little bit, yeah. So
Yeah.
we was going to Vegas, down here in LA, a
Yeah.
little bit San Diego, Portland.
the markets that support the Bay, essentially.
The markets that support the Bay.
Seattle.
We end up getting a deal through, that was through we went through an independent label that was part of Warner. You know what I'm saying? So everybody started kind of getting swooped up. Fab got swooped up, I believe. The team kind of got swooped up. They re-released our album. That's when we put Bang It on there. You know what I'm saying?
Which was
Another bang.
was Bang It a bigger single than
Yes,
what is it?
technically.
Yeah.
Radio-wise, it was bigger.
Yeah, yeah.
But street, you know what I mean?
Yeah, What Is It
was like
that's
the
a
one.
classic.
Yeah, that
That's
was
a
like the
classic.
one that everybody was playing in the town and everywhere. You know what I mean?
So, and then shortly after that, as you're becoming, y'all are one of the premier groups in the Bay Area, you're not really focusing on, you still did some battle rap shit. Like, I know you.
No, I hadn't done after 2003, I hadn't did no battle.
Well, so when was this is a fabled battle. I know the battle rap community would be pissed if I don't ask about
Yeah.
it. The legendary unreleased battle,
Yeah.
Locksmith versus Iron Solomon on
Yeah.
Fight Club. When was that?
Okay, so that was 2006.
Okay.
So at that time, I'm doing the Frontline stuff. This is where I'm thinking like, we about to get this deal. You know what I mean? We got this deal. Once
Yeah.
they put the money, you know what I mean? The record label folds, all that kind of bullshit. So now we back to like doing this shit independent. All right. At this time, Frontline, I think we hadn't released our third or second album, however you want to look at it. But I'm starting to kind of do like little record solo songs again and that type of stuff.
And you have 2 legitimate regional hit records.
Absolutely. And other, we had other records that was
poppin'
popping
records
in the
too.
club.
Yeah,
like, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like, and that was getting mixed show spins and shit like that. But I start seeing Smack
Okay.
DVDs.
Smith it up.
Smack. So they bring the Smack DVDs. We getting them in Rasputins. We watch. I'm like, I never seen battle rapping like this. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this is kind of, maybe I'm getting the time frame mixed up. No. I'm wrong. I messed up. I hadn't seen it yet. I go to New York in 2006. I saw one Smack battle. Murder Mook against Jay Mills.
Okay. Classic.
That was the first thing. I'm like, oh, okay, and we just happened to go to New York. I want to say like the next month or so. Me and EA Ski. We go out there. We literally walking through Harlem. I see Murder Mook's guy, who I noticed from the battle or something. I'm like,
Right.
that's his dude. And I'm like, I want to get a part of this or something. You know what I'm saying? He connects us with the guy from Fight Club.
Right.
Yo,
International P.
No, the guy who runs it.
Okay.
Nick
Yeah.
connects us. He sees some of my battle. He hears some of my stuff. He's like, oh, yeah, Locksmith. They had kind of heard about me. I was like, okay. He's like, yo, we want to get in. Locksmith, you want to get in the battle? I'm like, yeah, I want to get back in. Fuck it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Mind you, my mind frame, I'm not really understanding how much battle rapping has evolved in those 3 years.
Yeah.
I saw like one battle, on the Smack, 1 or 2 battles. I'm like, okay, I didn't really understand it, but I figure my shit is dope. I could just do this shit.
Yeah.
So they set up a battle. It was like, okay, you're gonna do a battle in Atlantic City, You're gonna battle this kid named Iron Solomon. All right, it's easy. I can handle this. You know what I'm saying? Man, I walked into a buzzsaw.
You feel like they was trying to line you up, or?
At that time, I was just pissed off because I just felt like, man, I should have been more prepared. I just thought I could just kind of get in there and coast and win.
Yeah.
You know, and Solomon, he was just prepared. And I could just tell. So right after that battle, honestly, bro, like I said, this is 2000. I wasn't on the internet. I wasn't on YouTube. I didn't go on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, I knew it was a thing, but I didn't watch videos on you. I watched videos on TV. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of went back and I looked up. I was like, oh, this dude has got hella battles. I had no idea he had Battle Thesaurus and all these people. And then I realized there was this whole battle community that existed online that I had no idea. So after that, I kind of put that in the back of my brain. I was like, all right, I'm gonna get my shot to battle again. Whenever this shit happens, when I come back to New York, I'm gonna be prepared. I wasn't even thinking about the Bay. I was like, when I come back to New York, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna be ready to tear some fucking heads
because it was
off.
mainly in places like New York and shit.
There was nothing,
Yeah.
well, at least I wasn't aware of anything going on in the Bay or in California that was battle shit on a high level.
There was, it wasn't like that though. Yeah,
It wasn't like that. I
And,
had no idea about
We were
what-
building it.
I had no idea what you were doing at the time.
We was building it.
So we put out another Frontline record, but in the meantime, in the back of my mind, I'm still salty. I'm like, I want to get back in the battle.
So, but why'd they vault that footage and never put it out?
Well, the footage was, I don't think it was ever supposed to be like, it wasn't supposed to be a part of nothing. I think it was just, I think it was just a warm up for Solomon.
Okay,
I think it was just like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like it was, you know how, I mean, look, I don't know that, but I'm just saying it kind of looked like, shout out to Iron Solomon. Once I went back and did my research, I could tell like he was already building a reputation.
He's a whole ass demon out here.
Yeah, he was already built a reputation in New York, and he was just like a battling dude. He was battling people, and I realized there was a whole scene that was existing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. And then I realized Fight Club was a whole thing. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even know what that was. You know what I mean? And then Fight Club started airing their battles. You know, their battles on the on TV, remember?
They had MTV2.
MTV2, and that was, you know what I mean? That's when I first saw Math and all that kind of stuff.
Serious Jones,
and he battled
was
Jen.
on there, yep.
So I was like, okay, so mind you, I'm back in the Bay doing Frontline stuff. We put out another album. We still on the radio.
Yeah, you still jugging.
We're still doing summer jams and all that kind of shit. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, in New York, they doing battles. I got to get back over there. So I start getting myself ready, and then I come back to New York again a couple years later, and I reconnect with them in Fight Club, you know what I mean? But they're not doing it no more. Or they're like reeing up to do again. I'm like, yo, I want to get in the Fight Club. Let me, you know what I mean? Y'all put me in that battle. Let me come back again. Let me get in this shit. I'm ready for this shit now. But they wasn't doing it. But at that time, I'm doing like EO Dub. You know, I'm going to EO Dub, rocking up there, going up there every week while I'm in New York, and I'm kind of getting myself back into that mind frame. But there's no battles going on. Then I come back and I see what y'all doing.
So, but okay, before then though, I want to know what you was thinking when the hyphy movement really wound up popping off.
Oh yeah, we was
because I feel like y'all music is kind of in opposition to what's going on with that, although it had a similar sound and all that. Like your content, like you're all about like being sharp and smart minded and like not dumbing out, and all these fools are talking about go dumb and taking a lot of drugs. That's like the antithesis of what.
Well, you know what? The hyphy movement, it
was fun though. I loved it.
No, it was fun. No, it was great for us. I mean, look, we would go into clubs every night. You meeting ladies. You know what I'm saying? You doing all this. But I just didn't like the drug element because
it's a big part of it.
It's a big part of it. But not necessarily. It didn't have to be.
It didn't have to be.
But it was a part of it. It was ingrained into it. But so the music side, like I said, the hyphy kind of destructive element, the first like when I heard it, when Fab was like, yo, they just being hyphy, I was like, okay, that's just people having fun going too far.
Yeah, they're like banging turfs though.
Yeah. But it could get like somebody did. I feel like it was like a little thing. We had to like stop it.
Like why?
Oakland. Exactly. And then you had people from Richmond. And, all that kind of stuff. But the music was fun. It was beneficial. And I can look back at this as as a mature man now and be like, okay. But like it was it had those good elements, but we just didn't really like the destructive element and the drug element. So when it started going more into the drug stuff, we were like, nah, we ain't with that. We're not like, why are we promoting drugs? Like, well, we never was gonna promote drugs.
No, you didn't.
So we was just like, and people was trying to like for instance, like let's just take the situation for Mac Dre.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mac Dre. I got stories. I ain't gonna, go on all day about Mac Dre, but Mac Dre, was one of the first people. I remember meeting him at the grill, embracing us, embracing Frontline.
Cool ass dude.
Balance, Mr. Fab. He was like, y'all fools, y'all niggas is dope. You know what I'm saying? So we would be right in the studio next to Mac
And
Dre.
that's when he was the man. I mean.
No.
Okay.
So here's the thing, and this is just my perspective. I remember in 2000, so I didn't even know about Mac Dre. I knew Mac Dre from the old Mac Dre.
Romper Room, yeah.
Young Black
Rompilation,
Brothers.
yeah, YBB, yep.
He went to jail. I didn't know nothing else about it. Lil Rick from Richmond hits me up like, yo, he hits us up. Yo, he hits up, I don't know if he hit up Left or me. He was just like, yo, y'all want to do a show? Like, yeah. He's like, yeah, we doing a show out in Sonoma State.
That's where the places where Dre was
So
popping.
let me tell you. So this is like 2000, 2001. He's like, yo, we gonna all caravan out there, blah, 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 blah. You gonna go out there, Santa Rosa, Sonoma State. One of them.
I'm wondering if it was Petaluma at the Phoenix
No,
Theater.
it wasn't that. It was
Okay,
on campus.
Yeah.
It was on campus.
Yeah.
So I want to say it was Sonoma State.
Yeah.
We go out there. So we didn't know. We hadn't really done that many shows. Lil Rick says, come out there, do the show. We trying to do any shows we can get. We get out there. It's a long ass line. Going to the event, we like, who are these people going to see? Like, what's going on? So I asked who y'all here to see? We here to see Mac Dre. It's all white people.
Yeah.
And we didn't know we was opening up for Mac Dre. We didn't know we was performing with Mac Dre. So Lil Rick was cool with Mac Dre. That's his homie. You know what I'm saying? So Lil Rick, put the show together, which was so dope for him to connect us on that, put us on, have us open it, for Mac Dre. I think we performed, but Dre didn't even get to perform because the crowd was so crazy.
It got shut down.
The police, this campus police shut it down. I was like, mind you, nobody in the Bay that I knew around was talking about Mac Dre.
And that's the funny thing too. So Mac Mall, one of my favorite rappers of all time. So there was, and that was the Young Black Brother records. Like it was Mac Mall, Mac Dre, Young Lay, you know what I'm saying? Ray Love, what I mean? And so I was like super tapped into all those.
Shout out Kyrie.
Shout out Kyrie, one of the best producers of all time.
Yeah, we did some work with Kyrie.
Yeah, he's the man. But so I was like tapped into Dre more than a lot of other people. Even when I was in LA, no one had fucking heard of that
you
shit.
white.
Yeah. Okay. No, check game. Nobody in my circles in Oakland, Berkeley, Richmond, nobody was fucking with that shit.
That's what I'm saying.
But I had a roommate, my boy Kev. He was from Martinez, and like one of the first things he said to me was like, "You listen to Mac Dre?" I was like, "Mac Dre, like you fucking."
See, Martinez is kind of
It's out there.
You start getting
Exactly. All those outskirt towns, like places like obviously in Frisco, Nicotina is the man.
Yeah.
Fools wasn't really slapping Nicotina in Oakland and Richmond like that, but. Now they do, you feel me? But in all those white towns,
Dre Dog.
Dre Dog. They love.
I remember him, man.
They love him in them places. You know what I mean? And it was the same for Dre. So you're right. So, but you wound up connecting with him and shit.
Yeah. So we didn't get to meet him that night because the show got canceled. But then we ended up meeting him back when we was kind of we met him at the grill. Opened up for him. We had like a community. Lil Rick put that together again. Shout out Lil Rick. It was a community show for one of the young homies who had got killed. Football player, got a scholarship. He was going to De La Salle, got a scholarship. He got killed, so we did a benefit. Matter of fact, I want to say we did 2 shows that night. It was the night of our record release. And Lil Rick was like, "Yo, it'd be dope if y'all come through, do the show." We end up, performing, opening up for Mac Dre. Seeing Mac Dre. But Mac Dre, like I said, from my perspective, he was not that big in the town yet. The town, these places, I didn't feel like they fully embraced him at that point.
2003 though, he was out of there.
I want to say
early 04.
04, 05. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he died in 04.
04. Okay.
Yeah.
So But we had already seen, like 2 years earlier, I was like, yo, how is he packing out these places way out on the outskirts? You know what I'm saying? And then I remember he did a show in San Francisco. Shout out to Chuck, Done Deal. You know what I'm saying? He was doing Done Deal Entertainment at the time. He was putting out these shows in Frisco every weekend and like once a month in Frisco at the Mission Rock.
Okay.
Remember that?
Hell yeah.
And if you was popping at that time, you did your album release or whatever, you did a show at Mission Rock. That kind of gauged how popping you
Space 550, Mission
Space
Rock.
550. But Mission Rock was Chuck's. That was the spot. You went through Mission Rock. We did it. Keak did it. I want to say everybody had to go through Mission Rock at some point in time.
Right.
When Dre did it, shut it down.
Yeah.
And it was all, and I want to say it was just like, it was white folks. You know what I'm saying? Like for some reason, they supported Dre. And then I kind of feel like the hood, not saying the hood didn't support him, but then they came around.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, especially when a lot of them drugs became more popular in the hood.
Look.
Because like there was a whole, to me it was.
That was the first time I heard about it.
Hyphy, to me, it was like hood raves.
Yeah.
They're on rave drugs, you know what I mean? The tempo, the music.
It turned into that.
Yeah, like that's really what it was.
Well, that's what the first time I heard this. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know what that was until people, you know what I'm saying? I was like, oh, that's what that is.
He invented that word.
He invented
Yeah,
it. You know what I mean? So Dre was a genius in that way. Now when you look back, you say like, yo, he created really an independent empire with that shit.
Absolutely.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like how did he do that? But he did it. And then I feel like, and this is just my opinion, once he passed away, it just went 100 times even bigger. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's really what launched it.
But his model was so dope because even at that time, you know, while he was still alive, he was putting out albums after
DVDs.
And I remember
Trill TV.
going into Rasputin's and he was #1 every time. You know what I'm saying? So you saw it coming like, what's going on? Like who's buying this? And it just shows you how, you know what I mean? And then around 03 is when everybody realized like, yo, this dude is a problem. Like, if you don't know, now you know. Because I feel like, me personally, I was so just like stuck on Keak. I just thought like Keak, you know what I mean? Keak was so dope. And then you had somebody coming from Vallejo and he just like turned it up to a whole nother level and he brought his movement and you couldn't deny it. So yeah, rest in peace, Mac Dre, you know, Miami,
peace.
Kilo, all those guys.
Yep,
And they always showed us love. Because I feel like Vallejo and Richmond is so closely intertwined. But I feel like,
there was some static at certain points too. But yeah. It's so hyphy movement, y'all are doing your thing. But did you kind of feel like because you weren't like indulging in some of the activities that those people were, like that were at the forefront of that, did y'all kind of feel like outsiders to it?
Well, we just never considered ourselves hyphy. You know, once it became like a brand, I was like, yo, we didn't want to be locked into that. So we didn't go full on like, yo, we hyphy. We was just like, that ain't never been us.
I never heard y'all say that.
Yeah, we never even said the word hyphy. You know what I'm saying?
If you said it, it was never like, we are hyphy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
it was just like, you know, and then it got to the point where I felt like it was going too far, where like it was becoming destructive. You know what I'm saying? Where people, I'm just like, yo. So I just personally didn't want to be associated with that element of it. But now, like looking back, I'm like, oh, it was obviously was a dope. We contributed to it. We helped found it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That New Bay movement is what like
jumped it off.
That was the precursor to it, 1,000%.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Then, you know, 40 re-cemented. You know, obviously we was doing, like I said, we was going to Sweet Jimmy, supporting 40. Short kind of came
and like
back
the
to the
Federation
town.
was super.
Federation.
Yeah, that was a
Rick Rock.
I feel like it was so funny, like the Federation coming from, you know, and like they're from Fairfield and they like sound like they're from Richmond, you know what I mean? And like y'all, or they sound like they're from Oakland type shit.
Yeah.
And y'all from the rich too. Like I feel like at one point Frontline and Federation and the team, those were like the three groups that were at the forefront.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like we were like those new guys on the block. You know what I'm saying? Keak, like I said, Keak had already kind of been around because of the three times crazy.
He was
so he had been
legend.
cemented. He had already was like cemented with his group, and then when he kind of had his resurgence with the, you know, around that time, I feel like he, you know what I mean, he started getting radio play.
Right.
He had already been so big. I kind of feel like probably the only difference between Keak and Mac Dre was that Keak got radio play first.
He did, and he was also, the thing about Keak is like, his style is so off the wall, a lot of people can't
Very
understand it.
different. Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
well, it got even more kind of. I think he kind of. I mean, it's just my guess. He kind of because when you listen to the early albums, you could clearly understand.
For sure.
But then he started getting kind of like, he starts swagging or whatever you want to do with it, like with the style. And people was like, yo, that shit is turned up. And I just like the culture. I think if you off something, that shit sound even crazier. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I feel like his style just evolved and it just kind of came this thing of its own. And it became so distinct. And then by the time you get to super hyphy, it's like,
yeah, he's off
out
the
of
chain.
here.
And that record still goes to this day. But like, you're right though. Back on like the Sicko album and the Stacking Chips album, you could understand him a lot
Yeah,
better.
absolutely,
But
yeah.
if you in the Bay, you could. It's so funny. Like growing up in LA, like, and I fucked with Bay Area music way more than most people did. But Bay Area music, I didn't understand. Like I fucked with 40 and the Click. I had
Yeah,
those records since I was
absolutely.
like young. But when I moved to the Bay and I actually heard E40 on that soil, he became one of my favorite rappers of all time,
Yeah.
and which he is to this day.
Yeah.
Because you don't really understand it. You're not going to fully feel the impact of it until you up there
Yeah.
and you like just become privy to that lifestyle. It hit different. It really, really do. And so on the heels of that hyphy movement, you're still doing Frontline shit. I remember you guys and you left and Ski had a song. I think it was called "The Truth" or something like that.
Yeah, that was on the last Frontline album.
Which
Yep.
that was
2007.
2007, yeah. And that was like y'all are rapping your asses
Yeah,
off
yeah,
on
yeah.
that.
That was like the first type of like double time type
yeah,
of shit.
you're really
yeah.
snapping on there,
Yeah.
and you're talking about, and that was on the radio too. And,
Yeah.
and you're talking
we
about
used to get radio playing all these songs.
right,
Yeah.
but y'all are talking about very lofty things.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I don't want to say it's like an anti-hyphy, but it was kind
Yeah,
of
we were talking about like, look, everybody, I think our main goal at that time, maybe even in a harsh way, but we were trying to say like, look, you can be from the Bay Area, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You can be dope, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And you can still be dope. And everybody showed us love and show respect. I mean, there was a little bit of friction, but it was nothing, you know what I'm saying? It was all
Yeah.
love, like, all the guys now, like Mr. Fab is dope in everything he's doing. Like we all homies with that 40.
And Fab always been lyrical too.
Fab
so.
has always been lyrical, but even the up and coming dudes, like it's always love. But we just wanted to be like, yo, like we on some lyrical shit, like you know what I'm saying, like you can't don't box us in, you know what I mean?
And then you made the return to the battle raps, like, and it's crazy. What's really dope is you and Ski reached out to me,
Yeah.
because y'all had seen the battles popping off on World Star,
Yep.
and then you could have gone back to New York and rocked and tried to do some
Yeah.
shit with them, and then I think you had told Ski like, why don't we just, these fools is in Oakland, why
Let's
don't we
do
just
it.
reach
Yeah.
out to these dudes?
I saw it on World Star.
And then Ski hits me up on MySpace, and he was one of the first, like, other than like the homies from Hyro and shit,
Yeah.
he was like the first person
Yeah.
in the rap game that had ever like hit me up like, yo, what
That's
y'all
crazy.
doing is dope. And I
Because
looked-
Ski is a hip hop head. you know what I'm
exactly, and
saying?
I had looked up to him forever,
Yeah.
and like we became real cool. That I was at his birthday party and all that. Like that was the homie, and he still is to this day.
Yeah.
But it's shout outs to Big Bruh
EA Ski,
EA.
yeah.
But what's crazy is around that time, I think Lock was focusing on, like, I don't know if he was in school or he was.
Left. You talking about Left?
I mean, Left was in
Left
school.
was he was in grad school.
Yeah, and you started to really lean into doing more solo material, and it seemed like, and to this day, I'll say it be, since 2008 to now, you don't give a fuck about being on the radio.
Yeah.
Like, and it seemed that's like a sharp departure from your early stages of your career. It's like,
Yeah.
and the funny thing is, you wound up becoming way bigger than you ever were.
Yeah.
You broke out of the Bay Area, and but I feel like you've leaned way more into hip hop, and it started with, it's funny because the video is on my YouTube channel because he asked me to put it out.
That's because we didn't even know YouTube.
You didn't have a
I didn't
YouTube channel,
back then.
Rare Form.
Yeah.
which
That was
is-
my first kind of like solo
That
song.
was the first, and like you're
But here's the crazy thing. That song was on the radio. They was playing that shit
right
on the radio.
right,
All
like,
bars,
like
no
you,
hook.
but you wasn't
No,
seeking out
I wasn't
radio.
trying to
And
do
I know
radio.
you've gotten radio play since
Yeah,
then.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not,
yeah.
but that's not like you didn't. I mean, you literally say like, Kanye, please come out the closet. You know what I'm saying? Like you literally you're saying crazy shit, you know what I mean? And like you're just having these double entendres and real, it's a type of, like, it sounded like Wake Up Show versus
but it was over a hard
ass
EA
beat.
ski beat, you know what I mean, with kind of like some dark kind of West Coast piano.
Wow, the guitar was.
I think G Coop might have played on some of that
Shouts to
stuff.
my dog G Coop. Yeah. That's to this day, G Coop on some of the biggest records in the world.
But you know what's crazy about that track is that Ski, at that time we had just started. We had, you know, Ski was kind of working on stuff. He was like, I was solo. I mean, I was still working with Left, but I was, you know, we were focusing on me working on some solo stuff, and we didn't kind of really know what direction to go in. And I want to say I already had that verse. I don't know to what beat. I just was writing bars, and I just spit it to Ski, and I think he just was like playing some drums. I started rapping. He was just like, and he just programmed the drums, and I rapped the verse, and then he played all the stuff around it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He put all the stuff, I think he brought in some, an instrumentalist or whatever, some session play, you know, added some stuff around
constructed it.
Got constructed it. And then I think I maybe re-recorded it to do that. And then the shit just like, we shot a video. Matter of fact, we shot the video for that the day after the disaster battle.
Okay, so yeah, you wound up, you're battling the top dudes that we had to offer.
Yeah.
You battled Passwords, you battled Daylight, you battled Disaster, and then Johnny Storm, I think, was your last battle that you won, which is a crazy run right there. And you know what I mean? Like,
grind time days.
Yeah,
man.
grind time era, doing the damn thing. And your solo career is starting to blossom.
Yeah.
But so what wound up happening when you and Ski wound up like going in different directions? I've always wanted to know, and like what happened. I know you might not want to get into certain.
Nah, it's all good. It was nothing even like negative or anything like that. It was just like, as time goes on, you grow older. You know what I mean? You grow more mature. You want to do things. You want to venture off and experience different things. And I kind of wanted to just take my career into my own hands. At that time, I'll never diminish anything that EA Ski has, like, he's contributed to so much of who I am as an artist, helping me, like showing me how to do stuff, especially as a solo artist, because, prior to that, I was always rapping with Left. You know what I mean? That's my brother, And then Ski was like, hey, you ever think about recording something on your own? You know what I mean? Like, why don't you give it a try? Or, I had wanted to do it, but I didn't know about producers or anything, so he kind of just like helped me and kind of, helped me mature as an artist to get me to that point.
Right.
And then at one point in time, I made a trip to New York and start linking with people, Dame Dash and Ski Beatz out there. And
amazing producer.
And at that point, I'm still working with EA Ski, but then I start networking with other producers, and I just kind of wanted to be more in control of my own, because at that time, Ski was kind of like my mentor, not officially, but like a manager, you know what I mean? And then I started learning stuff on my own, and I kind of wanted to just handle the business on my own.
Well, and Ski, me knowing him, and like, he's very methodical.
Yes, very much.
Very deliberate with how he
Absolutely.
releases things. He wants things to be a certain way. And if you're not going to be on that.
Yeah, I don't think that was the problem, because I'm still that way now with my shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But
I'm still very deliberate, but I think it just comes as you mature as an artist, every man has to step out on his own.
So there's never any animosity?
Never. I've never said a bad thing about Ski. You know what I'm saying? I've never heard him say anything.
I haven't either.
You know what I'm saying? So I have nothing but respect for him and CMT, you know what I'm saying, for what they created. They had such a large contributing factor. I still think that him and they together are the dopest producers that's ever done this shit. To this day. And Ski still, you know what I mean, doing dope shit.
Ski is, I mean, you could argue he's the greatest producer in Bay Area history.
Exactly.
Like,
I just think that we had so much success together early on. It's like hard, because the same thing happened with Ski Beatz. I go to New York and I start working with Ski Beatz. We did like a project together. I did some stuff with him. We had a whole nother album, but then I just started going, you know what I mean? As musically, you want to do other shit. You know what I'm saying?
And that's, Ski Beatz, that's the dude that fucking produced Camp Low.
He just happened to produce Jay-Z's first album.
Yeah, he was on fucking Reasonable Doubt,
yeah.
And like, what's funny is that Lucchini beat was originally, Jay-Z was about to have that, and then Camp Low got it, and the Can I Live beat was supposed to be for Camp Low, and then Jay-Z got it.
I think Can I
Live.
One of them was Ski. No, Ski was going to rap on it.
Right, but Camp Low also, like, because there's a lot of controversy about it, because they say that Jay was using the cadence that Camp Low,
the flow, the kind of flow,
yeah.
But No diss to Camp Lo, but you got to understand, Ski Beatz was a rapper too.
Right.
So Ski had a lot of influence on flows and raps and hooks. So a lot of those songs were Ski Beatz songs.
Makes a lot of sense.
You know what I'm saying? Because I've been, that's me and Ski are very close. Ski Beatz I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've stayed at his crib. I've heard these records. He's told me the stories.
So it might have been him then, yeah.
So I'm not saying that Camp Lo didn't create that. I don't know specifically one song, but I know that a lot of the original tracks that Jay-Z got were Ski Beatz tracks.
Right.
Because Ski was in a group with my man Tone Hooker called Original Flavor.
Yep.
So Original Flavor, they were rapping together. Jay came around. Matter of fact, Jay was featured on one of their songs.
Yep,
You know
that's
what I'm
one
saying?
of the first Jay-Z's.
Can I get open? You know it. Yeah. Can I get up? Kid it, rip it.
When he was on that double time
Exactly. So Ski was doing that. Ski and Tone, they were doing that. You know what I mean? And then
the Jazzo wave too.
exactly. So Ski hears Jay-Z. He wants to get beats, so he starts, he's producing beats. Jay-Z comes on, he lets Jay-Z rock over, like, fuck, you know what I mean? Let me, you got the situation right now. Dame is trying to push that, and then, it becomes fucking Reasonable Doubt.
And what's crazy is, to this day, Camp Lo, Lucchini, top 10 hip-hop record of all time, if you ask me. Amazing song, and I know that people be like, what would have happened if Jay-Z had that record? I don't think anybody could have done a better song than
what Camp Lo
Yeah,
did.
Lucchini
Camp
is
Lo,
fucking phenomenal.
They own that.
Yeah. To this day, it's literally
It's such a unique, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The way they're rapping and what they're talking about, fucking being 1970s diamond thieves, and they're doing that record in 97, I think it was. It's fucking crazy. So, all right, that's good to hear that there's no animosity with EA.
No.
Is there a chance of ever doing a record with EA Ski
Obviously,
again?
it's always a chance. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would like to see that happen. I'm putting it out there.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a reconciliation on wax at some point. So, Ski, if you wind up seeing this,
for sure.
from your dog Lush Uno. So I also feel like now, obviously, was the precursor to you doing your thing, but then you really started to just take off as a solo artist. You're putting out independently.
Yeah, all myself. Yeah.
Videos that are. I feel like you leaned more in. I think maybe from doing shit with Ski, like your original goal of doing. I don't want to New York type music. You know what I mean? You're not rapping over the Bay Area production as much. You still dabble in it and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to do whatever music I do. I'm trying to evolve with the times. I'm trying to evolve. I'm evolving as an artist. You know what I mean? I'm meeting new producers. I'm meeting cats from Atlanta. I'm meeting people from Europe. I'm meeting, you know what I mean? So your sound is evolving. Music is evolving, you know what I mean? But still being myself. And still, obviously, I love, I'm a lyricist, so I like music with substance. I like music with lyricism. So my music is always going to be, it's always going to showcase that. It doesn't have to be super complicated, but I still want to be a dope songwriter. I want to grow as a songwriter. You know what I mean? Not just, also I feel like, as you grow older, as you mature, you start making songs that are introspective, and you know what I mean, and you're talking about stuff that's always about. Then I start producing, you know what I mean. So I'm getting, I'm start learning how to produce and bringing in, live musicians and doing it and kind of adding to my sound and trying to grow as an artist, and that's always been my goal,
And then makes a lot of sense. And then, you start doing a lot of these Team Backpack ciphers.
Yeah, shout out Team Backpack.
I feel like the battle rap phase of your development kind of might have opened some doors in that regard.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then it kind of...
battle rap opened the doors for... I want to say battle rapping opened the doors for everything that I did as a solo artist, for sure.
Do you think you'd ever come back and do a battle again?
Look, I never say never, but it's definitely not something that's on the top of my brain.
Yeah, I don't think you need to, but you know...
I mean, if I look, I always did battles... When you did those, when I did the battles with you guys, like I said, the first time I saw it, I was like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Everything inside of me wanted to do that shit. I was like, I want to get out there. I want to show these motherfuckers I can battle. You know what I mean? So I had a burning desire. Whenever I felt like I didn't want to battle anymore, I was like, I'm just going to stop because I'm not going to do it just to get a check. Because, those battles, I never got paid. I just did it. And you guys would fly me out.
You got like a flight to Florida, Cat brought you out and all that.
But I did it because I wanted to do the shit. And honestly, that last battle I did in the last battle, that was kind of like, I knew, I was like, this is my last one. My mind is on music. You know what I mean? Like, I was kind of, I don't want to say half in. I'm not gonna disrespect, that battle or Johnny Storm because he's dope at what he does. But I was just like, I was more focused on. I was like, yo, I got these ideas. You know what I mean? Like my mind was. I had already mentally left. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, all right, because I always did it. The goal was like, I'm gonna use this to brand myself as a solo artist. You know what I mean? Because I was so engulfed in Frontline, I was like, battling is a way to get myself known back out there as Locksmith.
And you definitely did that. And there's a few songs of yours I want to talk about. First is you have a record called Nobody, which
Shout out Kato, produced by Kato.
Yeah. That's like damn near a trap beat, I want to say.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely. Yeah.
And he like does beats like that typically for more trapped out artists and things. In that record, which is really dope, you're kind of talking about a period in your life in like from like the chronology of this conversation, it sounds like sometime after the MTV battle, before when Frontline started really popping off, you were kind of at a difficult point in your life and like financially, you talk about you had to like reach out to your father for money.
Money, for a loan.
Which is really, I admire like the vulnerability you display on Wax while not sounding soft.
Exactly. I mean, that's a turned up song.
Yeah.
Like that shit goes hard. That's a dark ass trap beat, but it's still turned up.
And that's the type of shit that rappers don't want to admit or talk about. And it's like, so at that point in your life, did you kind of feel like giving up on your dreams and going a more traditional path?
I never thought about giving up, but it definitely was difficult. I think with that song, I kind of was going back to about 2000. So that song, I want to say, came out in 2017.
Yeah.
But I was kind of referencing back to right when I started, when I was completely on my own. You know what I mean? When I was going out to New York, I was just like,
no safety net.
I was living out there, but I still had my spot back in the Bay, but I was basically sleeping on the homie couch. I was taking the train from upstate New York to Manhattan, sleeping in Grand Central, sleeping in the train station, just trying to, doing at this time, I'm doing those freestyles up at Sway's.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Sway hit you like, yo, can you come through in the morning? I'm literally, this is the biggest opportunity of my life. I'm like at Grand Central Station, like, rehearsing bars, like, yo, Sway just hit me. I got to go up there and spit some bars. What am I going to spit? You know what I'm saying? But I got to sleep here tonight, or I got to stay here and take the first train so I can come right back and change clothes because I don't want to go up there looking dusty. You know what I'm saying? So that's just like, it's like kind of me referencing back to that time where it's like, I'm on unemployment. I don't have no job no more because I'm going to New York so much. I don't have no job. I can't really pay for this. I'm taking my unemployment check. You know what I'm saying? Taking this little bit of money so I can
buying a flight and
shit and using them buddy passes. You know what I'm saying? That my cousin is hooking me up with. I'm giving him money under the table. Like, yo, can I get one of them buddy passes? Flying out to New York, sleeping on the homie's couch, and just kind of like, so it's kind of referencing back to that time.
Really, really, really dope song. Another song that I don't know if you really spoke on it too much. It's what's it called? The hardest song ever.
Hardest song ever. Yeah.
And that right there is one of the most important records ever made in hip hop. And you're talking about sexual abuse and your own experiences with that, which made me feel more comfortable about talking about things that I've gone through like women that have abused me when I was younger. And I never spoke about that until I heard your record, and it was like, wow, that I felt like that took so much courage. Like, what was the thought process like making something like that?
Yo, so on some real shit, that song came about. That wasn't even something that I even was like trying to talk about. But what happened is around that time, I want to say 2012 or 13 or somewhere around there, I started experience severe anxiety. Like panic attacks. Like I was like, I don't know what this is coming from. Like what's happening? And it kind of forced me mentally, emotionally to kind of like do some soul searching, get some counseling. You know what I mean? Like getting stuff out. And then it made me realize like, yo, I have this trauma that happened to me that I've buried that I didn't know, for those who are not, the song is talking about an experience with sexual abuse, as a kid. And what sometimes people may not even think is sexual abuse or what you're going through, but I realized that this thing had an effect on me.
Right.
And before I could even talk about it in a song, I had to talk about it to someone else, And I remember, speaking to my family, speaking to my father, and something that we've never talked about. And I had to like.
And he's probably tripping when he
He's
heard
probably
it.
tripping,
Yeah.
he was. And I spoke about it to my who was my then my ex-girlfriend, who was my girlfriend at the time. We were very close. I was able to share that. And then it was a time, matter of fact, I think it was I never forget this. Macklemore, the rapper Macklemore, it was backstage at a show because I had did a song with him with Zion I, rest in peace.
R.I.P. Zumbi.
Zumbi. He had put us on a song together back in like around that time. And then I want to say this is after Macklemore had like kind of blown up. And I was a fan,
Yeah.
I am a fan of, what him and Ryan Lewis had created, that music. I thought it was just, especially that Heist album was so dope. And I remember I called him backstage and we were just talking. He was just super cool. And I was just picking his brain like, bruh, like, how he's like, bruh, one of the dopest things that he said, I just made music that resonated with people. You know what I mean? And I noticed
very
that his
honest.
album, very honest, and it made me feel more confident. I was like, you know what? So that kind of like, I kept that in the back of my brain. So then when this type of situation happened to me, I was able to talk about it. I was like, I want to be able to be more vulnerable in my music. And that's kind of how that came about in that song. Yeah.
It's incredibly powerful. I thank you for talking about that because like a lot of my own experiences mirror that to the point where I didn't realize that this was, like that even happened to me. Being like I hadn't labeled it as abuse, so I never really realized what it was, and then it's something that kept me sick for a long fucking time.
Because you're trying to cope.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize it. It's something
realize
I had buried so deep,
Yeah.
and I know there's a lot. I'm sure you get hit up. I don't want to say every day, maybe every day, about that record in particular.
Bro, I can tell you this. I perform, sometimes, it'd be kind of weird when you perform that song, because I kind of, in my live shows, I try to like build it up and take it down and build it up again. Like
You're an
take
MC.
Yeah. You want to take people on a journey. At least for me, I don't feel like everything got to be like super like turned up and lit. Like you want to have some moments where you bring the crowd into your world.
Well, that's what make those high moments hit harder.
Exactly.
If it's just high energy out the gate, you have nowhere to go.
Exactly. So sometimes I be performing, like even at clubs, I'm like, do I really want to perform this song? And if it's a short set, sometimes I
Probably
won't.
not.
But if I'm doing like 20, 30 minutes, I'm going to do this song. And sometimes I'll be like, man, this is a super hip hop crowd or this is a super like street crowd. Should I perform this song? But I end up doing it, and every time I'm glad I do it because it kind of stops the momentum, but people fucking stop and they listen. And literally, you're right. Every time I perform that, somebody comes up and is like, yo, thank you. That happened to me.
Yeah.
That song really resonated with me. I'm gonna look up that, and then they become a fan for life, man. You know what I mean? They tap in. They're like, "Yo, man, I just saw you, in New York. I just saw you in Oklahoma. That song you performed, I looked you up after that, and it resonated with me. I'm a fan of yours for life."
Yeah, that's amazing that like because there's all these stigmas, you know what I mean, and people don't want to talk about it. And on top of it, you made it sound cool. Like obviously not the experience. You know what I mean? Like you made it sound good. Like,
Good
and
song,
it's a dope song
Thank you.
to listen to. And it's like, like it makes you seem more of a man having, in my eyes, doing that shit.
I think so. Yeah, you gotta, being a man is not always about being like super tough. I mean, obviously you want to be strong, you want to be a survivor, these type of things, but it's just real. It's real life, man.
But expressing that vulnerability is
for
very
sure.
powerful. And you have countless fire records.
Thank you, my brother. Thank
to
you.
Even this year, you're putting out a bunch of videos.
Yeah.
What's the next move? What's cracking?
Yeah, the next move is I'm venturing out to. I started doing I got some placements doing stuff for video games, commercials,
Okay,
TV.
okay.
I just started
Get that
working-
paper, Playboy.
Yeah, exactly. That's dope. I got first couple video games placements, so that's super dope. Working on I feel like during the pandemic, I was putting out a lot of music. Then this year, I kind of slowed down.
You did drop a few videos this year, though.
Yeah, early in the year, and then
Yeah.
I kind of repost. You repost stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm working on a new album. I think it's I've been recording it. People are like, "Yo, this is your best shit that you've done." So I'm just super focused on, and I've been taking my time, like really crafting the songs, really crafting the visuals, the content, and I'm just excited about that, and just ride whatever create this next wave.
how rewarding is it to know that you've been doing all this shit? I mean, obviously, you collaborate with other people, but essentially, this on your own,
Yeah.
on your own terms, not
Exactly.
bound to the radio.
Yeah.
Although, like, and if songs pop off and get
Songs
on the
pop
radio,
off, yeah.
cool.
I think we might have a few that might need to get on there in this next project. But yeah, it feels good, man. I'm just grateful. Like this past year, even from a financial point, it's been my best year I've ever had. You know
Let's
what I'm saying?
go. I love to hear that.
I'm grateful for that. And you know,
I mean, you had to toe fear of God. You feel me?
Nah, it ain't. But nah, I mean, it's just been the best year. It's a blessing. You know, my father, like I said, I feel like my father's he's a super smart guy. I always go to him with like financial questions, information. I'm like, yo, what do you think of this? And he's like, look, you're growing every year. You need to just build on that, expand on it. And that's what I've tried to do, even when it's hard. You know, when you're a content creator, you go through, you know, you got personal shit going on. Sometimes you're not motivated. You know, the fucking pandemic, all that shit was like rough. But you know, I just try to tell myself, you stay consistent, you work through it. And when you stay consistent, opportunities will present themselves. You know, you create your own opportunities. You just got to stay consistent with it. So I just keep that mind frame. That's how I'm able to kind of constantly grow. You know what I mean? Keep creating art.
Now, this has been an amazing conversation. I want to ask a few topical questions to you because, like, I feel like this could potentially be the quintessential Locksmith history archive. But, you know, there's a few things I want to touch on. First of all, you know, being half Iranian, there's a lot going on out there right now.
Yeah.
You know,
in Iran.
In Iran, as far as the, you know, like essentially like a women's revolution and like just a whole changing of the guard. What are your thoughts on all that?
I think it's a little more complicated than people put when you see things on social media. But I just really want, you know, this is my homeland. My father is, you know, was born there.
You've been out there?
I haven't been there in a long since I was a kid.
Okay.
But I'll say this. It's a lot more complicated than people put, but I pray for peace. You know what I'm saying? I pray that things can be resolved in a way where things won't be violent. You know, I just want peace. But at the same time, I just have to say, living in America, I think a lot of people see the way things are here and they think it's perfect. But I say this, you know, I've always considered myself, I come up through protests. Growing up, you know, UC Berkeley, going to protests, speaking out against injustices. I think you have to be very careful, whatever country that it is, to seek assistance from your oppressors.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So people looking for America to be helped, but then you're looking to America for help, but then you have to look at, well, who put you in a lot of these situations in the first place? That's just, you know, you just have to look at it. And I'm not saying anybody's responsible for anything, but people need to understand and do their own research. I don't jump on any bandwagon of anything. I always, and I'm not specifically speaking to the situation in Iran. I'm talking about any situation. Right. When things happen, I always look at it and I look and see what like even with Black Lives Matter, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm black, you know what I mean? But when the Black Lives Matter things, obviously you see a horrible thing what happened to George Floyd, you know. But I always was like, yo, well, I'm with the concept of Black Lives Matter, but what's up with this organization?
There's a big distinction between the concept
you know
and the
what I mean?
organization.
Of course, the phrase Black Lives Matter, the sentiment is true. Like we need justice. You know what I'm saying? That's why I've always been an advocate for Black power. You know what I'm saying? These are things that I'm a student of Malcolm X. You know what I'm saying? Of Haj Malik El-Shabazz, of the Black Panther Party. You know, I just, spoke at an event with Bobby Seale. You know what I mean? So these are things about Black empowerment. You know, Black businesses, Black ownership, policing ourselves. That's what the Black Panther Party was. Like, we're going to watch them because we're going to police our own communities. You know, Black Lives Matter, I was just like, not the sentiment, but the organization. I'm always like, well, what's that about? Like, who's behind this? I could see very early on that there was political opportunities for this, you know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of times for Black people, so here's the difficult thing about when you ask me something about Iran, I'm gonna tie it to that. I don't live in Iran. I can only speak from the standpoint of my father and my family members and people know. But I'm not there. I live here in America. And I can personally say that I feel like black people in America are used as pawns politically. You know what I mean? Whether it's the Democratic Party, whether it's the Republican Party, or whether it's corporations, they're used as pawns. Whether you see black people dancing in the fucking McDonald's commercial. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
what is that about? Like, why
Right.
are you know what I mean? Like, okay, we're giving black people opportunities, we're marketing to them but what point are you pandering? You know what I'm saying? To them. At what point are you manipulating black people? And at what point are you actually taking away black people's power by saying you have to be this one way? So that's why I'm all about, people having the opportunity to speak for themselves, but also understanding that there are other outside forces or other things that may have a vested interest in funding your plight. And it may not be really beneficial for you in the long run. So you can make those parallels to any other situation that you want. But I will say that I'm Muslim.
Right.
So my understanding of the way that I see the world is from an Islamic standpoint. And I'm not saying that from I'm this perfect, you know what I'm saying, Muslim.
Right.
Like I got flaws and I fuck up and do all kind of shit. But at the same time, I look at things from an Islamic standpoint. So I'll just leave it at that.
Understandable. And I think I'll say this, it's too lofty of a conversation for me to touch without having all the proper education on it.
Yeah. And
So,
I think that anybody needs to have it. You need to have a further education. But I will say that, and I'm not going to get too deep on this shit.
I do appreciate you speaking on it, though. I think a lot of people would want to hear that. So that's dope.
Yeah.
Now, just yesterday, or I guess early this morning, we got the news Takeoff from the Migos passed away. Recently PNB Rock passed away. You had Mo 3, you had Draco the Ruler, countless
So many.
other.
It seems like the last year it's been crazy.
Brutal amount of. What are your thoughts on all these rappers meeting this untimely demise and balancing the street life with their newfound success?
Yeah, I don't know.
Unable to do so.
Yeah, I don't know the details of those situations. I see just like what everybody else see. I just saw on social media the video. It's just heartbreaking. You know what I mean? To see a young brother. I mean, not that this has any, his life is worth something regardless of what he does as profession. But shit, Takeoff was like the dopest one to me. Like, you know what I mean? To me personally. So,
I literally was just on the podcast talking about how raw he was the day he died,
like
earlier in the day.
For what I like as a rapper. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I was like, I would love to really hear, and he was only 28 or something
28
like that.
when he passed.
So it's like his life was just beginning. So it's just horrible.
And he had so much success.
I don't know what the details is. I just kind of briefly read some things, and I don't want to speculate, but I don't think, I could be wrong, but did somebody intentionally kill him? Or was it like,
no.
so it wasn't that, right?
No one
so
intentionally
it's just a tragic
killed him.
event.
And he wasn't even the one involved in the altercation.
So there was an altercation.
There was an altercation between his unc, Quavo, and, on some dice game shit, and it wound up going left, and, the bullets were coming from all directions, supposedly. I wasn't there. And, supposedly some came from his own people. Yeah. And,
I will say this, and I'm not the spokesman for the black community, you know what I'm saying? I grew up, in these harsh environments, but I was fortunate enough, to have my mother and father. But I can say this just from speaking with OGs like Bobby Seale, you know what I mean? Speaking with OGs and people that are in the community that have been doing this work. I worked for a nonprofit organization as part-time when I was doing those battles. Right. You know what I'm saying? I was going back to my job, tutoring and mentoring kids. That's what I did.
You've always been a real conscious dude.
Thank you. But I worked in the community hands-on. I went into the hoods and helped out and delivered groceries, and food to families in North Richmond, in South Richmond, in the ghetto. I've been, I've lived in those same hoods, and I will say that we have to, in the black community at some point, we've got to understand that it starts with us. We know that all these forces are against us. That's what some of the first things that we instilled in the young men that we were mentoring. Like, look, notice what the situation is. Give yourselves the best opportunity. Create an environment where you're not put in that situation, because once you get in the system, once you get in these things, they're gonna do whatever now you just become a number. You're just a cog in their system. And you have somebody like, who can make it out through rapping. You know what I'm saying? You just got to be extra on your, and not saying that he wasn't, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because I don't know that situation, but I know there's certain situations, like I remember, I think it was, I could be wrong. I think Jay-Z had a conversation with Biggie. He said he was in the car. Somebody said he was in the car with, and it was just like, yo, either Biggie or Jay was like, yo, I can't do that shit no more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yo,
Right.
you gotta, you know what I'm saying? Like, I remember one of the homies was telling me it was some situation with Jay-Z. He knew Jay-Z, and he went up to Jay, and Jay was like, come on, man, I can't do that shit no more. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
you know what I mean? So it's just like, when you get to some status, man, I don't know what his situation is, but, you know, rest in peace to him.
He
Hopefully,
was definitely a multi-millionaire.
you gotta move, you know, hopefully you can move differently. But it's still, he should be here.
Absolutely.
He should be here. You know, this guy had his whole career ahead of him. And, you know, these type of things can happen to anybody. So it's not like, you know, but it's just unfortunate, man. So rest in peace, man.
Very unfortunate. R.I.P. And, you know, our condolences to his family and all that.
Yeah.
And apparently I heard that he was on good terms with Offset as well.
Hopefully
which is
you know,
good.
hopefully this, it's got to have an effect on those two.
I would hope
Quavo
so.
and Offset, like, they got to be like, yo, life is
I would hope so.
precious, man.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we've all lost somebody at some point in time, and somebody that young and with so much, you know, so much ahead of him. Like, he only scratched the surface of his career, you know?
And literally been in the most successful group for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, I guess him 28 now. He was probably when Versace dropped. He was like
20,
18, 19. Yeah,
because that was like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
now.
exactly. That was 2013,
That's crazy, man.
12. So do you still live in the Bay Area?
Still live in the Bay, yeah.
Your music has gone way beyond the stratosphere, and I've always been like a proponent of the fact that there's no real Bay Area. There's a Bay Area sound, but
it's evolved.
There's a lot of different elements to it. Like, as much as we have all the, you know, the 40s and shorts and all that, there's still Hyro and the Coup, and, you know, like there's
all the new shit.
but there's, like, you know, like Conscious, under Zion I. There's like different elements to what comprises the Bay. So I don't like to put the Bay in a bubble.
The Bay has always been,
you know,
eclectic. You know
everything from the mob figures, like Jacka, all that,
Rest in peace,
to Locksmith.
Yeah.
And but you've really like gone into, as at one point early in your career, you're really trying to like appeal to the Bay because you're immersed in it.
Yeah.
Then in your solo career, you go in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
You still get love in the Bay, but you get love all over the world now, way more than I imagined
Thank you.
you did before. What are your thoughts on the current state of Bay Area hip hop?
I think it's dope, man. I think it's even more. There's no one sound. I mean, you kind of have you feel a little bit of that line, but it's so many dope artists. I mean, everybody's, you know, music and the way we deliver music is so much more accessible. I think it's dope, man. I really love it. I mean, you got lyricists, you got turf shit, you got club shit, you got conscious shit. I love it, bro. Like, I honestly think it's one of the best places it's been in a long time, you know?
How has gentrification affected your views of the Bay Area? Has that affected your life at all?
Absolutely, yeah.
Has it hit Richmond
I had some property and it went up. So
Okay, there you go.
I ain't gonna even lie.
Has gentrification hit Richmond?
That
like
property, when you don't like it, when that property go up, it's like, damn, shit, this shit was worth a lot more than it was 15 years ago.
Invest,
you know. Yeah, you know, you want to keep things, but, you know, I like the diversity. I mean, Oakland still feels very Oakland. I mean, it's obviously there are things that are different. You know, you got the yoga studios and the coffee shops, but it's still the town. It's still there. You know what I mean? But it's a little bit. I guess it's kind of like Harlem. You know what I mean? You got it in there. I mean, yeah, but you don't want to see families losing their homes. The prices, the things have just skyrocketed. It's almost impossible to rent. It's difficult. So I think that's the downside. You know what I mean?
In 10 years from now, Richmond might be, you feel me? Like,
I mean, it's already changing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The neighborhood that, you know, that my family still live in, I'm like, am I in Richmond right now?
Yeah.
Like, this shit, it looks kind of like how Oakland looked 10 years ago or like 8 years ago.
Right.
That's when I started. I'm just like, wait, we in central Richmond right now?
Yeah.
Like, what? How? You know what I mean? Like, so it, at some parts, I don't like the fact that people are getting pushed out because it's so expensive and it's, it's just almost basically impossible to afford in some areas. But then, there are new businesses and opportunities. So it's capitalism, bro.
Show is. And bro, like this has been one of the longest No Jumper interviews in a while. Besides our streams, we could go on. I feel like for another hour, but I know they probably gonna call me off pretty soon.
Yeah.
Right. I know you probably was. Yeah. Regardless, is there any final thoughts? Anything that you didn't get a chance to convey that you wanted to?
I want to say it's good to see you reinventing yourself.
Thank you, sir.
And doing what you do. I think that's very dope. I think it's amazing what you guys have been able to, the whole battle scene. Shout out to, you, Direct, and, all the other organic.
Yep.
Smack, all those URL, all that, what they've done, how battling is taken to a whole nother level. That's just fucking dope. I hadn't listened to a battle in like 10 years, but when I was on tour the other day, one of the homies was a battle rap fan.
Yeah.
And I got like a crash course in battling in like a
seeing all the RBE shit and all that.
All that shit, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, so it's dope, man. Congratulations on what you're doing. And yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Means a lot, bro. Locksmith, God bless. Might have to have you come back for a part 2.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
This shit was fire. Y'all know the vibes. And we about this biatch out this biatch.